And we are back. Week number 4 of the college football season here in 2025. We've had a good year so far. Let's keep it going. Every single FBS versus FBS college football game here this week. So obviously we're not going to be including games such as, I don't know, VTech versus Wofford, which I don't know, the Hokies might lose that one, but only FBS versus FBS games. I think that equates to 50. So lock in. We're going to be here for quite a bit. Before we get into the video, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and leave a like. That's all I ask for you to do watching these videos. These videos do take quite a bit for me to make. So again, all I ask, hit that subscribe button down below and leave a like. That helps the channel going forward. So I appreciate that. Also, go make sure to check out our NFL predictions tomorrow on the channel. We're going to have our full week 3 predictions for the NFL, and go check out our daily MLB best bets on the channel too. Also on Greedo Plays MMA this week, our Dana White's Contender Series predictions. That card is on Tuesday from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, let's do it. First to 50, we're going to keep the same format as last week, so every single game gets a graphic, and we start with the showdown from Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's go. The Rice Owls go on the road to Jerry Richardson Stadium to take on the Charlotte 49ers. Yes, this is a killer matchup on Thursday night. The only game on Thursday for college football, of course, the NFL is going to be offering the Buffalo Bills beating the Miami Dolphins by approximately 42 points. Instead, we are going to have this as well in college football. Rice is a 5.5 point favorite on the road, and I think they cover. I'm going to go with the Owls here to kick off the week. So Rice so far a 2-1 team. Only loss is a 35-9 L to Houston. Rice has made it very clear what they're doing this season. They're just going to run the ball, okay? Their quarterback, Chase Jenkins, can run. He almost has as many rushing yards as he does passing yards through 3 games. And last week, he ran for negative 13 yards. Obviously, that's a result of sacks and whatnot, and it is what it is. The Raging Cajuns have a decent front line. They're going to try to run the ball down your throat, is what Rice is going to do. Quentin Jackson is their lead running back. 46 carries this season for 213 yards. Dalen Alexander, their other running back. I don't know how Charlotte stops them. That's basically my basis for picking this game. What Charlotte's going to do is they're going to throw the ball a million times. Their starting quarterback, right, former UNC product Connor Harrell. Harrell's been all right this year as Charlotte just picked up their first win of 2025 last week over, I think it was Prairie View, right? No, Monmouth, excuse me, wrong FCS school. They beat Monmouth last week, and they blow them out 42-35, correction. They put up a lot of points is what I was going for here. Guys, they're such a bad defensive team, Charlotte. You know what's bad, by the way, when Monmouth puts up more points on Charlotte than Bill Belichick's North Carolina does? Oh, man. But, you know, UNC shut down Charlotte. The 49ers scored 3 points. Monmouth puts 35 up on the road against Charlotte. Monmouth's quarterback throws for 410 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Charlotte barely gets out of there with the victory. So we talk about, at times, the worst teams in college football. The Charlotte 49ers are right there. Charlotte 49ers are horrible. VTech's horrible. UCLA's horrible. Shout out to Greedo Plays clips on TikTok. Go check that out. We do post college football over there. UCLA and VTech suck. There are some other teams that are really horrible. Charlotte's really bad. Kennesaw's horrible too. We'll get to them at the end of the video, later in the video. Rice should dominate the game. I get it. How you beat Charlotte is by throwing the ball. It doesn't matter. I think, you know, Monmouth didn't run the ball that well on Charlotte last week. That's not what they do. You know, Monmouth had 458 yards last week on Charlotte, and you consider yourselves to be a FBS football team in the American Conference. Guys, does Charlotte win a single game in the American this season? I know this is week 1 of American Conference play. They're playing Rice. I don't know if they win a single game in the AAC. Tell me a game they win. I don't know. I don't think they get one. So I'm taking the Rice Owls this week. I think they will win, and I think they will cover. I like the running attack out of Rice. I think the passing is going to be there for Chase Jenkins and for the Owls, but that's not what they do. So I think they're going to run the ball all day against Charlotte. Charlotte's not ready for this on a short week. They're just not a good football team, and they're going to lose, and they're going to lose in a big way this week. Rice minus 5.5. I'm seeing some lines at 4.5. If you can get 4.5, even better. I'm taking Rice to kick off the week. Let's move on now to our second game of the week on to Friday night on ESPN as the Oklahoma State Cowboys host the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Oklahoma State's another really bad team. I don't want to say everybody's bad, and we'll get into a Big Ten game in just a few moments here where I won't say both teams are bad. but Tulsa and Oklahoma State. Guys, if Oklahoma State can't cover 13.5 points at home against Tulsa, Grundy should be fired, okay? And they just need to pack it up for the entire year. I'm so serious. If you can't cover 2 touchdowns at home against Tulsa, I mean, this is just a respect thing at this point. You're Oklahoma State. You're taking on a team in your state that's not the Sooners? Come on now. This should be a blowout, and I'd be surprised if it's not. I get it, OK State's been not great this season, but here's the thing. I think we're over-exaggerating a little bit about how bad Oklahoma State is. Did they look horrible in week 2? Oh, they did against Oregon. Oregon beat them 69-3, but going to Eugene is difficult, okay? And I think a lot of teams are going to have trouble going to Eugene, Oregon. Now, losing by 66 points bad? I don't know. Oklahoma State's obviously been having to start backup quarterback Zane Flores. It is what it is. They could not throw the ball against Oregon. He had 67 passing yards. They couldn't run the ball at all. Flores made some horrible decisions with the football, but I'm telling you guys, the game slows down this week for Oklahoma State. No disrespect to the Tulsa Golden Hurricane players, but the game slows down this week for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. You go from one of the fastest defenses you're going to play, one of the best all-around cores you're going to play defensively, to the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, who are 1-2. The Tulsa team last week, who Navy put 42 points on. They went to Las Cruces, New Mexico, a couple weeks ago and lost to New Mexico State by 7 points. Recently, they have gone in the direction of Baylor Hayes as their starting quarterback. Hayes has been okay, but I mean, I think OK State should be able to dominate this football game again. They go to the freshman in Hayes out of Brentwood, Tennessee. Oklahoma State's week 1 game against UT Martin, they shut them down at 7 points. They just couldn't score, but legitimately, do you think Tulsa scores more than 14 points this week? I don't think so. I think 14 is their max, in my opinion. Right? You look at what they've done this year. 35 against Albany and Christian. Don't care. Albany and Christian got destroyed in the portal this year. New Mexico State lost. They scored 14 points and then 23 points last week against Navy. If Oklahoma State can do anything this week, I think it is stopping Tulsa defensively and limiting what the Golden Hurricanes are able to do. I'm not sold on the freshman Baylor Hayes. Hayes, of course, in his 3rd career start in Stillwater. I mean, I get it. Oklahoma State's not been a good program this season, but I don't care who you are. If you're a G5 quarterback walking into a Big 12 environment, yeah, that is going to suck. Is Oklahoma State bad offensively? Oh, they are. I think they're going to have to go back to the run game a lot this week, and we will see what Caleb Hicks is going to be able to get. I mean, he's got 120 yards in 2 games, and one of those games is against G5 UT Martin. I mean, the guy's got 35 carries on 120 yards. You know, and his longest rush of the year is 14 yards. I think they need to take the ball out of their quarterback's hands, in my opinion. Zane Flores does not move the needle for me. He makes some really bad decisions with the football at times, as we saw in the Oregon game. But again, how much of that is just, okay, Oregon's really good, and how much of that is Oklahoma State's really bad? I think it's a combination of both, right? Oklahoma State's not the same team as they were last year, right? Over the last couple of seasons, right? When you had an older quarterback in Alan Bowman, when you had Ollie Gordon at your running back position, obviously, right? In 2023, Ollie Gordon was arguably the best position player in college football. I mean, 100% you could have said that. If he went out in the draft after 2023, I mean, he would have been a high draft pick. And obviously last year did not have a good year at all for OK State, and the Cowboys just struggled a lot last season. But that's besides the point. I still think they're good enough to beat Tulsa by 14 points. I mean, if they can't do this, right, what is Oklahoma State's season? You got to find ways to score this week. I think the defense is going to turn over Tulsa a couple times, because look at what Baylor Hayes has done this year. He's already turned the ball over multiple times. He's already been picked a couple times. You're telling me OK State won't be able to do the same exact thing? Show some damn self-respect. You're Oklahoma State. You should be able to blow out Tulsa, who's walking into Stillwater, okay? Give me the Cowboys to win at home. I was going to say the Sooners. My apologies. That's disrespectful to Oklahoma right now. Give me OK State to win at home. They will cover 13.5 points, and they will go to 2-1 on the season. But Big 12 play is going to be brutal for them. They get Baylor next week. Yikes. That's going to suck. Oklahoma State, though, this week, they will cover 13.5 at home against Tulsa. Our other Friday night game, Big 10 matchup. Rutgers at home against the Iowa Hawkeyes. I've gone back and forth on this one. I have. This is one of the closer games for me to pick in the entire week, just because Iowa so far has looked all right, but they've played bad teams. You play UAss last week, and they play Albany in week 1. And then week 2, they play Iowa State. They lose in Ames, but that's a competitive game. They lose it by 3 points, and Iowa State supposedly is supposed to be a top 15 team in the country. I don't see it. I don't know how they're ranked ahead of the Indiana Hoosiers. We'll get to that later. Obviously, huge game this week, Indiana versus Illinois in Bloomington. Oh my goodness, the fact that College Game Day's not there? What are we doing? We'll get to that whole debacle later. We got Miami and Indiana in back-to-back games later in the video, probably like in 2 hours from right now. But anyways, Iowa versus Rutgers. I've gone back and forth here. You know what you're going to get out of Iowa. Run-heavy attack, great defensive team. Rutgers is 3-0 this season, but they've beaten nothing but bad opponents. They beat Norfolk State at the MEAC. They beat Miami of Ohio, and, well, they beat Ohio. I will give them credit. They beat Ohio and Parker Navarro, who played tight against Ohio State through the first 2 3/4 quarters last week, and then obviously Ohio State pulled away. My thing with Rutgers is, and obviously Ethan Kalimanka is still starting quarterback, right? He is, I've got to believe, 24 years of age at this point now. I don't know what Rutgers is going to be on the offensive side of the ball against a really good defense. That's just what Iowa brings. You can expect it every single year, right? These two teams did not meet up in 2024. They played in 2023 over in Iowa, but that was a huge year, obviously, for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They went to the Big Ten championship game. That was Cooper DeJean's last season in college, right? They lost to Michigan, but whatnot, right? Like, different circumstance, 100%, right? Rutgers was a different offense with Munungai and Gavin Wimsatt there. Completely different squad. Anyways, though, I think Iowa's going to win. I think the defense is going to be too much. Now, who is the better football team straight up? I believe it's Iowa. I know their passing attack sucks, and Mark Gronowski, tried to do his thing. He'll throw for maybe 100 yards if he's lucky. The ground game's good for Iowa. It really is. Struggled against Iowa State, did not struggle last week, obviously, against a very lesser opponent in in UMass. I think they should be able to run the ball down Rutgers' throat this week. Because Rutgers just hasn't played a good team yet. Well, they played Ohio, and they were close to them. Here comes Iowa, who's going to shut you down offensively. My only concern, it's a night game in the Big Ten on the road, first Big Ten game of the season for both these teams, and Rutgers is playing with the utmost confidence right now. They're 3-0. I still think Iowa gets them, in my opinion. I think the run game is going to be huge. I think this is all dependent on if Iowa can establish this run quickly and early. Xavier Williams and Patterson. I mean, those are their two backs, right? If you can establish that run game early, get a stop defensively against Rutgers, limit the passing attack of Ethan Kalimankas, I believe Iowa is going to win the football game. And also, you got to stop Antoine Raymond out the backfield. I think Iowa is going to win the game based off their defense. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes to win on Friday night, -110. The only thing that concerns me this week, legitimately, is that the game's in New Jersey. And I just don't want, again, the home, which I know, again, Rutgers doesn't get the craziest crowds, for a Big Ten perspective. They don't get a crowd like they do in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm joking. But am I? I don't know. They don't get, obviously, like a Michigan-type crowd or an Ohio State-type crowd. I was a little concerned about, again, you're on the road, somewhat of a hostile environment, your first Big Ten game this season. I'm still going to go with Iowa. I think, again, the defense is going to be huge, and they're going to be able to shut down what Rutgers wants to do. I'm going with the Hawkeyes to win on the road in New Jersey against Rutgers. On to Saturday, our first game of many. I believe this is big noon kickoff. I'm pretty sure it is. And this is definitely, well, game day should have gone here. They should have gone to Oklahoma, or they should have gone to Indiana. Instead, they chose Miami, when you know damn well Miami's playing Florida State in a couple weeks. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. But anyways, we get Utah versus, I guess Miami's on the road at FSU, but why not go to Tallahassee? They're going to go to Tallahassee too, aren't they? Who cares? What a game to start off the week, though. Start off Saturday. Texas Tech goes on the road to play the Utah Utes. Absolutely love Utah here. This should come to the surprise of absolutely nobody. If you've watched me so far this season, you know I'm all over Utah. Hell, date back to last season if you were watching too. Devin Dampier was probably my favorite G5 quarterback last year. And as soon as he made the move over to Utah quickly, I was like, all right, this team's legit. And they've always had a great defense. They've always had a great O-line. Quarterback play has set them back in the last couple of seasons. Unfortunately, Isaac Wilson has been that. Now, Isaac Wilson's not even the backup quarterback anymore for this team. Is his name Bird Flicken, I think, right? Yeah, I believe it's Bird Flicken is now the backup quarterback. I'm sorry, way better than Isaac Wilson. Isaac Wilson's definitely going to transfer to BYU or Utah State next season. I believe it's going to be Utah State because Bryson Barnes is going to be gone. Anyways, Utah last week struggled in the first half against Wyoming. Super low scoring game. I think they only scored 3 or 6 points. I think it was 3 points in the first half. Yeah, you got a halftime last week, 3-0 between Utah and Wyoming. Obviously, Utah pulls away in the second half. They go up 24-0, eventually win the game 31-6. Okay, Devin Dampier is a difference maker. He's a game changer. Going on the road to Laramie, it's tough, man. It is, right? That is the definition of a trap game. You're the 20th ranked team in the country, and you got to go play a good defensive squad in the Wyoming Cowboys. Devin Dampier finds a way. 230 passing yards, 90 rushing yards, and Utah does take Wyoming's O this season, the first loss of the year for the Cowboys. I really like what Utah's got going, and I think that all starts again with Devin Dampier. He hits Ryan Davis last week 10 times for 91 yards. Texas Tech's a good team. Don't get me wrong. They are a high-scoring bunch. They've won 3 consecutive games. 67-7 week number 1 against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Last week, 62-14 against Kent State. And then last week, 45-14 against Oregon State. And man, has Brennan Morton been playing well this season? Oh yeah. Brennan Morton this year, 923 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Legitimately, the winner of this football game will be firmly established in the Heisman conversation. Now, that is like, Devin Dampier should be in the top 5 right now. Carson Beck, I think, very clearly should be number 1, but that's neither here or there. Devin Dampier is going to establish himself in the Heisman discussion after tonight, or after Saturday. Okay. Texas Tech hasn't played a defense like Utah yet. You're scoring on Kent State, great. Kent State's the worst team in the FBS, or one of the worst. They're probably the worst. Arkansas Pine Bluff, okay. You beat a team out the SWAC, congrats. You beat Oregon State, who is atrocious. They can't do anything right. E.J. Warner lit them up. Exactly. Utah, again, a real defense, will give legitimate resistance against Texas Tech. And oh, by the way, you got to deal with the best dual threat quarterback in college football this season in Devin Dampier. That just doesn't add up to a successful night for Texas Tech, in my opinion. Utah is a 3.5-point favorite at home. They will cover games in Salt Lake. And this is what I really like about Utah this season. Look at their schedule. Their toughest road game is the Civil War at Brigham Young. And maybe BYU can give them trouble. Or not BYU, sorry. Baylor can give them trouble in Waco. Other than that, all their other games are tough games are at home. Actually, Texas Tech and Arizona State are the 2 tough games. Utah should be a playoff team this season. They have dominated every game they've played so far against UCLA, CP, Cal Poly, and Wyoming. They will do it again this week against Texas Tech. I'm going with the Utah Utes to win this football game, and Devin Dampier will dominate because he's just that good. Utah wins, and they cover the 3.5 points at home as well against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Next up, we move to Memphis, Tennessee, as we've got the Arkansas Razorbacks going on the road to take on the Memphis Tigers. Should be an interesting one. Arkansas last week loses to Ole Miss 41-35. A competitive football game, and a football game where I think it needs to be said, Ole Miss is not as good as people think they are. Jackson Dart is gone. Okay, there's a reason why Austin Simmons is, he struggled early in the year, right? You go to Trinidad last week. Ole Miss wins the football game by 6 points against a team that, no respect to Arkansas, we're about to talk about, Ole Miss should have beaten by a lot more. Okay? On paper, they should have won by a lot more. Not to say that I thought they were or whatnot. Ole Miss has more talent than Arkansas is what I'm trying to get at here. Anyways, Arkansas now goes on the road to take on the Memphis Tigers. We'll have more on Ole Miss later. Arkansas is a 2-1 team this season. We know how good Taylon Green can be, but you beat Alabama A&M. You beat the Wolves from Jonesboro and Arkansas State. And last week you go to Oxford and you play a competitive game against Ole Miss. The gauntlet begins now for the Razorbacks. Ole Miss, Memphis, Notre Dame, Tennessee, A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State, who beat Arizona State, LSU, Texas, Missouri. Oh my goodness. This is a brutal schedule. Taylon Green's going to have to be that guy this season. He leads the team, obviously, in passing yards and rushing yards as well. He's got 307 on the ground. He's got 870 through the air. I think they should beat Memphis, and I think, though, Memphis will cover. Guys, for as good as I think Arkansas can be, and sure, do they have more talent than Memphis? Oh, they do. Taylon Green's the best player on the field this week, I believe. Memphis is a good squad. They are. They're 3-0 this season. Brendan Lewis has done enough for this team. I will be honest with you. I was a little on the fence about Brendan Lewis on his third team now at 25 years of age after not playing well last season at Nevada, or playing not great, and Nevada got benched at one point in time. Him going to Memphis for his final year, I would think, I wasn't high on it. He's been nothing but a game manager so far, but he's done enough for Memphis to be in a position to win. And their run game's gotten them to where they're at. And sure, that's Brandon Lewis on the ground. That's Sutton Smith as well. But Memphis is a 3-0 team. Last week, a 28-7 victory on the road in Alabama against Troy. A win over Georgia State in week number 2. Oh, by the way, both those wins over Georgia State and Troy on the road. So you go to some Sunbelt squads and you win on the road. Now you get Arkansas at your place. I think they keep it close. Do I think they win? No. I think Arkansas's got the better talent and the better quarterback. A guy who legitimately, Taylor Green, who's going to make an impact at the end of the game. He's going to be the one that decides who wins it. But if you're Arkansas, right, you have to win this. Because I don't know what you're expecting for the rest of the year. If your goal is 6 wins this year, well, you're going to have to beat a ranked team eventually. Who knows if Notre Dame's going to still be ranked by the time they get them. They definitely will. We'll get to Notre Dame pretty later in the video. It's a must-win spot for Arkansas after coming off that loss last week. Again, Taylor Green's probably going to throw for 200-plus yards and run for 100-plus yards. He's going to do everything in his power to win Arkansas the football game, and I think he will. But I believe Memphis is going to be able to play it close, especially because the game is in Tennessee as well. I'm going Arkansas Razorbacks to win, but I think Memphis covers the spread. Plus 6.5, the Tigers will at least keep it close at home. Next up, we move on to a Big Ten matchup. Again, Big Ten play is officially underway. Last week we saw some games like, a monster game, a crazy game between USC and Purdue. Anyways, this week, to kick off Big Ten play, Maryland versus Syracuse. Syracuse is next. Maryland versus Wisconsin, my apologies, from Madison, Wisconsin in Camp Randall Stadium. Wisconsin last week loses to Alabama. They lose at 38-14. There was talk throughout the week if Billy Edwards was going to be able to play. It was ruled on late Thursday night that he was not going to, so Danny O'Neal got the starting assignment once more, the former San Diego State Aztec, and Danny O'Neal did not play a great game. It's a lot to ask out of a sophomore who didn't think he was going to start this year, who, kind of signed on for a bench role to start for his redshirt sophomore season, but it is what it is. He's been forced in a spot, and Billy Edwards, who at one point in time, at least Week 1, I thought he was out for the year. Billy Edwards is back. Does that change much as he's playing against his former team this week in the Maryland Terrapins? I think Maryland covers. I think Wisconsin wins because the game's in Madison. You're telling me that guys in that Maryland Terrapins locker room aren't going to be pumped up? Your quarterback left your team, not to another conference, not to a higher level of football, to your conference, but not to a higher level of football, not to a different conference. No, he transferred within the conference to play for Wisconsin, who, again, is expected to be better than Maryland pretty much every single season. But, come on. You gotta feel like there's something brewing here, right? Now, is Malik Washington a better replacement? Is he better than Billy Edwards? They're different players, I'll say that, especially because Malik Washington is huge. He's 6'5" as a freshman, and, definitely the potential is there. Malik Washington's played well so far, but Malik Washington has played FAU, Towson, and NIU. Northern Illinois. So what do we have so far out of him, right? He's looked good, but against that competition. I think Maryland keeps it close. Talent-wise, Wisconsin has more talent. But Wisconsin, coming off a loss to Alabama, which everyone expected, what is Billy Edwards going to be like in his return? He's been off 2 weeks, right? Danny O'Neal's been getting a lot of the first-team reps, obviously. Well, he's had to because Billy Edwards has been injured. You come back, you're at home, but now you're taking on your former team. It's a game that we knew Billy Edwards was not going to miss. But I think it's a tough spot. I think Wisconsin's going to win the football game. But, right, we have not seen Billy Edwards since the first quarter of week number 1 against Miami of Ohio. I expect him to be better than Danny O'Neal. I expect him to actually be able to move the football offensively and not just through the run game, right? I'm not saying Danny O'Neal's a pure runner. Just most of their offense came just with handoffs because Danny O'Neal couldn't protect the football. They throw the ball 15 times with him. And other than the Middle Tennessee game, the offense wasn't really going at all this season. So sure, they need Billy Edwards back there and starting. What is he going to be in his first game back? Maryland is a team that should know him fairly well. And again, we talked about last week, Darian Mensah playing Tulane. We had Tulane. We didn't think it was close. And Tulane is the best G5 team. They are probably going to the postseason this year. They are this year's Boise, just without Ashton Genty instead. Jake Retzlaff, who is a high-level talent just playing in the G5. I think Maryland keeps it close. I know they played a very competitive game against NIU. I get that. I don't think their quarterback's horrible. I think Malik Washington's got a future. I think he's got a very bright future in the Big Ten. And I think Maryland keeps it competitive against Wisconsin. Ultimately, I'm going with the Badgers to win the football game. But I think this is a great spot to snag some points. I'm taking Maryland plus 7.5 on the road at Camp Randall against the Wisconsin Badgers. And here are the aforementioned Syracuse Orange. Guys, I don't know why Clemson's a 17.5-point favorite. I don't know why. I get it. Syracuse has been like, I'm sure like backstage of Syracuse this year, or just in the locker room of the Syracuse Orange, has been like a reality TV show. All right. I don't know what's going on over there. All right. Obviously, the biggest headline to come out of Syracuse this season was not their loss against Tennessee. No, it was the fact that they played UConn. They won the game in a game that they, really struggled to win. They had to take it to overtime to get the victory. They had to, they had to find themselves in that game essentially, and really find out what they're made out of. And they had to sprint. The coach made them do sprints at the end of the game, which is great, I guess. If anything this season, Steve Angeli has basically gotten what Kyle McCord had last year. 1 million yards a game. That's just what Syracuse is, right? Now, is he better than Kyle McCord? And is he going to have the impact Kyle McCord had on Syracuse last season? No. I don't expect Steve Angeli to go and beat Miami like Kyle McCord did last year. But I do think he's going to continue to play fairly well. Hell, he's got a date, I'm assuming, circled on his calendar right now, going to South Bend later in the year in November. Obviously, definitely a revenge game for him. But this week, they've got Clemson. Why is Clemson favored by 17.5 points? Do we not learn? I mean, guys, we have bet against Clemson twice this year in like specific bets. I think I picked them to cover against Troy, because who would have thought? But specifically, we took LSU in our best bets, which, by the way, is coming out later in the week. We took we took G-Tech in our best bets. Shout out to Haynes King and the guys. Why wouldn't I take Syracuse now? I'm not telling you this is going to be in the best bets at the end of the week, but Syracuse is going to be competitive against Clemson. Because here's my thing. I think both offenses are going to score. I know Cade Klubnik has not been what we were promised. And I said this in week number 1, and I said it right away. I saw so many posts, Clemson's the best overall talent team in the country. They're 1-2 and can't make the playoffs anymore. Well, they have to win out to make the playoffs. Are they gonna? I mean, seriously, is this team going to beat Florida State? They get the game at home, but like, I don't know. Okay, guys. Clemson does have a pathway to 10-2. I'm not gonna lie, but last week of the year, can they beat South Carolina? I don't know. Right? I get it. The Gamecocks are horrible right now. But we shall see, is what I'll say. We shall see. I'm going Syracuse to cover this week. I'm going Syracuse to cover against Clemson. Clemson's a 17.5-point favorite. Okay. Syracuse, at a minimum, is going to score 21 points, I think. That's just what they do. They'll find ways to score against anybody. Even like Tennessee, who's got a good defense. Not last week, but they have a good defense. Syracuse scored 26 points against those guys. Okay, so if we get 21 points out of Syracuse, at a minimum, right? Clemson's got to score 38. They haven't scored 38 all year long. You scored 10 in a loss to LSU. You scored 27 against Troy, and you scored 21 last week on the road in Atlanta. What makes me believe you're going to score 38 points this week? Actually, you need more than 38 points. You need 39 points. Not going to happen, okay? It's too many points for Clemson. It is. Oh, the game's at Death Valley. I don't care. They're not a good team this season. They're not. They're not a good team. They have kind of found their run game now. They have. I did not know what their run game was going to be against a good team, and Adam Randall had some good carries. You know who's holding them back now? It's Cade Klubnik. It is. Guys, Cade Klubnik, other than when he throws to Bryant Wesco, he doesn't have another receiver he feels comfortable throwing to. Wesco's his guy. He targets him 7 times a game, and he has like 60 yards to the rest of the team. Is that not a problem? It is. I'm going Syracuse plus 17.5. Clemson, I don't care the game's in South Carolina. You should not be favorites by this many points against anybody, let alone a Syracuse team that's going to keep throwing the football and stay in your face the entire game. I'm taking the orange. Next up, we go to, yes, we're going to skip VTech and Wofford. I'm telling you right now, take Wofford. We don't have odds for those games yet. I'm telling you, take Wofford on the spread. They are 0-3 in their conference, and they're not good. They've lost to South Carolina State, Richmond, and Mercer. They play competitive games. Their largest margin of defeat's been 4 points this year. So again, quick side note, Wofford's lost 16-15 to SC State, 14-10 against Richmond, 22-21 against Mercer. They play low-scoring defensive football games, okay? Trust me, they're going to stay close to VTech. All right, VTech is going to be like probably 18.5-point favorites. I don't think they get away by more than like 10-ish. I'm so serious. That's how horrible that team is. They just fired their head coach and whatnot. Just telling you, watch out for that. Okay, matchup here between SMU and TCU. I feel like SMU should be in the Big 12, but they're not. Like, I mean, that would just make sense. Like, join all the other Texas teams. Join Texas Christian. Join Texas Tech. Can't say Texas anymore. Join Houston, right? I feel like they should be there. That's neither here or there, though. Southern Methodist goes on the road to Texas Christian to play the TCU Horned Frogs. So I'll say this right now. I think TCU is going to win the football game. I think so. They're minus 225 to win the game. Obviously, you don't play that, but I think they will, right? I think Texas Christian will probably get the better of Southern Methodist this week. But this is what I can say. I believe SMU's offense is going to look a lot better this week. They looked great against Baylor. And ultimately, they couldn't score when it mattered late in the fourth quarter against the Baylor Bears. Sawyer Robertson brought his team all the way back. And in overtime, right, Southern Methodist just couldn't punch it in, right? They had a chance to win the game at the end of the fourth quarter, and they just couldn't do it with the field goal. Regardless, Southern Methodist last week goes to Missouri State and does not look good. They go down 10-0. Their defense locks in. They scored 28 straight points after, but only beating Missouri State by 18 points, a team that is new to FBS football, and you're a squad that was in the ACC championship game last year and went to the postseason. That's not great. That's not great. So we're expecting a lot more out of SMU. I'm still waiting on Kevin Jennings to be a top 5 quarterback in college football, because that's ultimately where his potential is at. Okay? Just hold on to the football a little bit more. I know everything. First thing, when you think of Kevin Jennings, you think how bad he played in the playoffs against Penn State. He's got all the skills. Trust me, he does. Okay? Just because you lose to Baylor once by 3 points, sure, you're at home, but since losing to Baylor is not a horrible thing. Baylor's a good team. They're going to be very competitive in the Big 12 this year. Baylor, I don't know if they're better than TCU, though. I don't know what to make out of TCU, right? Josh Hoover's back this season. Josh Hoover's been good this year. They beat Albany Christian last week. Great. You beat Albany Christian 42-21. You beat UNC week 1 in the monstrosity that was Chapel Bill debut. Remember when we were excited for UNC football? I know. Yeah, we'll get to them later as they go on the road to Central Florida. Hey, UNC's 2-1 now after victories over Charlotte and the Richmond Spiders. That's great. SMU is still very capable, and SMU will hang in this football game. TCU is not going to see all this, amazing defensive stops. They're not going to see all these defensive stops against Southern Methodist like they saw against UNC. Trust me, SMU's a much better ACC school than the Tar Heels. Kevin Jennings a much better quarterback than Gio Lopez is, or even Max Johnson too. And SMU's offense as a whole is just better. Defensively, for SMU, I think Texas Christian's going to be able to score because Josh Hoover has had his way so far this season. It's only been 2 games, and it's been against Albany Christian and UNC, but we know SMU's defense is not the greatest. Watch the Baylor game. I would put Texas Christian on par with Baylor in terms of, an offensive presence. I think it's a close game, and I think that's why SMU covers, but ultimately, I would not play the money line for SMU. I think Texas Christian, if I had to bet on it, which I'm not because the odds are not good, I would go at Texas Christian. I think they will win the football game. I think they're the more complete team, and I do worry at times about, SMU in high-scoring affairs like we saw against Baylor, right? They're a good team. Are they a great team, though, this year? I don't know, okay? I'm going to take SMU plus 6.5. I'll be honest, probably wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet it regardless. Like, I'm not playing money lines, right? But I don't think I would even bet the spread. It's one of those games you sit back and watch. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But ultimately, I'm going to go SMU with the spread. Do not bet it, though. Next up, we move on to a matchup between Bowling Green and Louisville. Why is Bowling Green 27.5-point dogs? Maybe I'm just wrong here, which I might be. I think Bowling Green's going to hang in this football game a little bit. And when I mean hang, it's like I think they'll stay within 20-ish points, right? Bowling Green is ramping up, obviously, for MAC play coming up. It's their final non-con game for the rest of the season until their final game against non-con UMass. Or UAss. Actually, no, is UMass... I forgot, UMass is in the MAC now. That's so weird. Anyways, UMass gearing up for their 0-12. Sorry. Oh, UMass plays Kenton this year. Oh, that'll be fun. We'll see who the worst team in college football is. I forgot UMass joined the MAC this season. That's going to be great. Anyways, guess they'll be in the MAC now for basketball too. Bowling Green, one of the better teams in the MAC in my opinion. Ohio is really good too, and next week, that's a banger in the MAC, dude. Bowling Green versus Ohio, that's going to be a really fun game. Buffalo's looking crazy too at this point. But anyways, Bowling Green's a 27.5-point dog at Louisville, in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't see it. I think Bowling Green covers. Drew Pine might be an unk now for college football. He's been around, but he's a game manager. And what did we say last week, right? Bowling Green is 5.5-point underdogs win at home against Liberty. I don't get why the books respected Liberty so much. But did I not tell you again that Liberty was not going to A, win or cover? They didn't do either last week, right? A big victory for the Bowling Green Falcons. They win by 10 points at home, and now you got to go to Louisville. Miller Moss and Louisville, obviously, this season have been okay. Not great. That's the thing, like, Miller Moss hasn't played all that well this season. If anything, it's been their run game that's taken center stage, and that's been Isaac Brown, the sophomore, who on 18 carries has 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against Eastern Kentucky in week 1, 6 carries for 162 yards. He's got big runs in both of the games he's played so far against James Madison and against Eastern Kentucky. Now, James Madison's a really good team, right? I think they're the best team in the Sun Belt right now. I think they are. ODU's really good, though. So I don't know. It's either them or ODU for me. Southern Miss is really good, too, and I guess Texas State still can be really solid. I don't care that they lost in Tempe last week. It is what it is. There's some good teams in the Sun Belt this season. And Louisville beats JMU by 14 points. All right. Miller Moss is still not playing well, though. He's not playing well at all. 150 yards against James Madison? Bowling Green's got a good defense. I mean, they shut down Ethan Vasco, and sure, again, Liberty could not convert once they got into plus territory. They missed a chip shot field goal in that game as well. And Liberty really, they wouldn't have won, but they sold a lot of opportunities, I cannot lie, against Bowling Green. But Bowling Green, what they're going to do, they're going to grind you out. They're going to, win the field positioning game. And are they going to win the field positioning game against Louisville? No, but I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen here. Bowling Green plays well enough to just stay tight in games. Because that's what they do. Bowling Green has it's like an anti-getting blown out mindset. They just stay competitive. And that's why I like them to cover here. 27.5 points is a lot. Even better if you can get 28 or 28.5. You can get 28.5. Ooh, I love this play. I do. Bowling Green on the road can be solid. Guys, they went on the road to Cincinnati earlier in the season. They only lost by 14 points. And now we're getting double that at Louisville. Is Louisville better than Cincinnati? They are. But we're getting double those amount of points. JMU's a good team. Louisville beat them by 14. I think if we get 28.5 or if we can buy a point here, ooh, we're in business with Bowling Green, man. 28.5, 27.5. I think it covers. I wouldn't play it unless you get 28.5. Right? I think they cover 27. Personally, though, I wouldn't put my U.S. currency on them if you don't get 28.5 points. Regardless, though, I am going with the Bowling Green Falcons. Drew Pines impressed me, obviously, in the post-Harold Fannin era here at Bowling Green. They should be able to get it done and cover on the road at Louisville against a team that I'm not impressed at all with. So, give me the Bowling Green Falcons. Next up, we move on to a matchup between Miami of Ohio and UNLV. I like UNLV here. I like UNLV quite a bit. UNLV is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. At the beginning of the season, was I high on UNLV? No. And do you blame me? Look at their week 1 game against the Idaho State Bengals. It's a horror. Bobcats, Bengals, yes, okay. Always get them and Montana State mixed up sometimes. Just because, look at the Idaho State logo from afar. Does that not look like a small Bobcat? Anyways, UNLV is 3-0 this season. They struggled in week 1 against the Bengals of Idaho State. They were losing at one point in that game. But anyways, week 2, they go on the road. They beat Sam Houston. Last week, at home, 2 weeks ago at home against UCLA, they beat UCLA. How much should I put in the UCLA victory, though? Because UNLV beats UCLA, and then last week, or just 2 days ago, the New Mexico Lobos, without Devin Dampier, beat UCLA. UCLA's horrible at football. Way to go, Nico. Head coach fired, not surprised. Don't think anything changes, though, for UCLA for the rest of the season. They just don't have enough talent. Anyways, UNLV now enters their final non-con game of the year as they take on the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. Miami of Ohio is 0-2 this year. And I was pretty high on this team going into the season. I was really excited to see what Daquan Finn could do in his return to the Mid-American Conference. Guys, Daquan Finn has not been good in his return to the Mid-American Conference. Well, okay, correction. He hasn't played a Mid-American game, though, so far. But against Rutgers and Wisconsin, he does not look good. Much better against Rutgers than he did against Wisconsin, but his team was just losing by so much in the Rutgers games that things opened up for Daquan Finn as the game went on. In all fairness, had a really good first drive of that football game, but that's how he equates to his 250 passing yards and his 85 rushing yards. It was just a blowout by the time that game was over. Miami of Ohio needs their FCS game, and they need it bad. And this is the thing with the MAC, guys. The MAC doesn't play easy teams. Rarely do they get, and even if they do play their FCS games, they don't get that till week 4. They don't get their week 1 adjustment game, and okay, we can see what we have. No, they jump right into it, and they play Big Ten school. Now in Mountain West school, they host UNLV. but a team that they're not expected to beat, in my opinion. I like what UNLV's doing. I do. I was very hesitant, and I was very on the Anthony Calandria, not just signing, but assignment to start. I didn't know what Calandria was going to be. I'm not gonna lie. I was on Team Orgy. I was getting excited for the orgy this year in UNLV. But they went Calandria, Orgy, obviously. There's sporadic orgies on the field. Alex Orgy sporadically comes onto the field at UNLV for some rushing spots and whatnot, because that's what he's great at. Calandria's been good this year. I got to give him credit. Struggled a little bit in week one. Sam Houston good. UCLA good. I think he's going to be good against Miami of Ohio. What I can say about Miami of Ohio, though, is that they have a good defense. They have a pretty solid defense at that, right? Solid defensive squad. Held Wisconsin to 17 points. Sure, that was the whole game. Oh, here comes Danny O'Neal because Billy Edwards gets injured. Last week, though, 2 weeks, though, against Rutgers, not a great performance. Rutgers puts it on them. I think UNLV can go on the road and win this game, because I just don't know how Miami of Ohio is going to be able to keep up. Guys, there was not a bigger fan of Daquan Finn than myself in 2023 at Toledo. I loved watching Daquan Finn play football. I was excited for him at Baylor last year until he eventually lost that starting job really early in the year to Sawyer Robertson. I think Daquan Finn can be really successful against these MAC schools. Like, hell, the next 3 games for Miami of Ohio is going to be great. Lindenwood, Northern Illinois, and Akron. Awesome. You get to beat up on some teams. They should beat NIU, I hope, right? Right now, though, it's a difficult spot for them, and I think UNLV goes on the road and just puts belt to ass. They have so much more talent. I like Jaden Thomas on the ground. Calandria, we want to talk about how good Orgy is on the ground. Calandria can run too, right? Jaden Thomas, very effective back in his 3rd season with the UNLV Running Rebels. I got to go UNLV here. They are the better football team, and they should go on the road and dominate Miami of Ohio. I wonder really how Miami of Ohio is going to get going offensively. Yeah, their defense isn't bad, but this is a UNLV victory in my opinion. Next up, we go to West Point, New York, as we've got the Army Black Knights taking on the North Texas Mean Green. Ooh, I'm going North Texas on the road. I think they can win this game. I think they can. Army is the 2nd best military academy this season. Number 1 is by far the Navy Midshipmen, who are 2-0 in the American Conference this season, all fairness, against UAB and Tulsa. But in comes Army as well, who of course is in the American Conference too. I know they beat Kansas State 2 weeks ago. Had a bye week last week. Anybody can beat Kansas State. Guys, my local high school team might have a chance of beating Kansas State. They might. I don't know. Run the ball down Kansas State's throat, might have a chance to do it. Okay, my local high school O-line might see some success against K-State. Who knows, right? Avery Johnson might be a problem for the high school defense, though. Not gonna lie. Anyways, though, last 2 weeks ago, Army goes to Kansas and they beat the K-State Wildcats. Obviously, the K-State Wildcats were en route to going 0-3. They are 0-3 now after losing last week to the Arizona Wildcats. Who told you that was gonna happen? That was me. Anyways. That was the best bet, too. Army now hosts North Texas. You can look good against K-State, which normally in any other year would be a great victory. You beat a Big 12 team on the road. Awesome. I think North Texas is really ready for this football game. Watch North Texas beat down on Wazoo last week, okay? Guys, Wazoo's not great. They're not the juggernaut they used to be. I understand. Like, Oregon State, for me, this year on paper, was going to be much better than Wazoo. But the Pac-12 this year, until, again, they become the Pac-10, I think, next season, they're not going to be good until they can just regroup. And we'll get to Wazoo later in the video, and I have my theories about them playing UW this week in Pullman. Anyways, though, North Texas dominates Wazoo. A 59-10 victory for the Washington State Cougars, for the North Texas Mean Green over Wazoo. Jackson Potter throws 3 interceptions on 16 for 23 passing and for 140 yards. Drew Mestemaker, they found a quarterback, You lose Chandler Morris, oh no. Here comes Drew Mestemaker, who in his freshman season, his redshirt freshman year, has 764 yards and 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Yeah. He's really good. Drew Mestemaker is a quarterback, okay? There's a reason he's starting over Reese Poffenbarger, former Miami quarterback. He backed up Cam Ward last year, he started at Albany in 2022 and 2023. There's a reason they're starting the redshirt freshman over the senior. That's all I'll say, right? Because Mestamaker is legit. North Texas, I think, is going to go on the road and really hurt Army. I think they're going to beat him over the top. I think so. I think they can beat him over the top. I think they got more speed in their receiving core compared to what Army's got defensively. And the run game's going to be such a crazy change of pace, too. Because, again, Mestamaker can throw. This team can pound you as well. Mackenzie McGill, Caleb Hawkins. They've got guys. Jaden Becks. You've got 3 running backs who are really solid. Again, it's probably going to be a lot of McGill, I'd assume, who had a really big week last week. That was probably, I don't even know what running back we're probably gonna see the most next week. It's probably McGill. Jaden Becks has been getting a lot of run too, though. I don't know, more than Hawkins, obviously. It'll be McGill, but I do think you'd expect to see some Jaden Becks this week as well. It's just I don't know how Army's gonna be able to keep up. And yeah, what does Army do? They shorten the game. They run the option, obviously, even though they throw the ball a lot more now with Cale Helms, who has replaced Bryson Daly this season. You're going to see some opportunities for Noah Short to get involved a lot, not just on the ground, but through the passing attack, too, as Noah Short did throw for a 52-yard completion last week to Brady Anderson against Kansas State again 2 weeks ago. But I think North Texas is the better football team. I get it's at West Point, but North Texas, again, has talent. Losing Chandler Morris for them sucked, but they have re-upped in the biggest way. This is a good football team this season. They've got a good defense, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be set, and they will be more than fine trying to deal with this ground game running option attack of the Army Black Knights. Give me North Texas on the road at plus money at that, too. UNT goes on the road at plus 100, and they beat West Point, or they win at West Point. I'm taking the North Texas Mean Green to beat the Army Black Knights, plus 100 for North Texas. Next up, we go to the 9:45 o'clock start game. Tennessee hosts UAB. Ooh, Rocky Top. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me. That was a interesting game last week. Plus 3.5 covered, so I can't be mad. It can't be. As soon as Max Gilbert hit the second field goal, I knew we were in a great spot. I wanted Tennessee to win, but couldn't be that mad. Georgia scores a touchdown. Obviously, you don't kick the extra point to win the football game because, well, you've already won, so you win the game by 3. It's like in the NFL as well. You don't kick the extra point when you don't need to. I wanted Tennessee to win, and I think Tennessee, Kirby Smart said at the end of the game, Tennessee played well enough to win that game. They deserved to win the football game. But at the same time, Georgia played excellent down the stretch as well. They did. Tennessee fought back, right? Georgia takes that 27-21 lead in the third quarter, and then, here comes the bomb over the top, Aguilar to Brazel. And is Joey Aguilar playing spectacular football this season? Oh, he is. He is. Made some mistakes last week. Aguilar's a great football player, and he's going to be really good in the SEC this year. I would be surprised if Tennessee doesn't get in the playoffs. I look at their schedule. I think this is the only game they're going to lose. Their other 3 tough... they might go to... Tuscaloosa is going to be tough for them. I still think Tennessee's going to go to Alabama and win. They will get Oklahoma because that game's going to be in Knoxville. It's just one of the games for me, Sooners, Volunteers, wherever that game's played, I'd take the home team. And then Vandy at home. I'll be damned if Tennessee loses to Vandy with the chance to go to the playoffs on the line. So Tennessee gets to regroup this week, right? And obviously, they should have won the game. They should have, right? I mean, if Max Gilbert hits, the 42-yard field goal to win the football game, it's a whole different narrative we have out of Tennessee right now. Arguably, Tennessee's the number 1 team in the country now. Even though, don't get me started. How is Miami not the number 1 team in the country? What more do you want? You beat Notre Dame, you beat USF. How does USF get dropped for the rankings and Notre Dame's still in there at 0-2? What are we doing? Doesn't make sense to me. Do not make sense to me. But, whatever. Or at least LSU should be number 1. It should be Miami. It's just, it's disgusting what goes on with the rankings sometimes. They'll tell you that, okay? Ohio State, they're great. Ohio State was in trouble in the third quarter against Ohio. You beat Texas by 7 points. Well, Texas struggled to get away from Texas El Paso last week. Okay? Ohio State's in the top 4. Miami's just number 1. Anyways, Tennessee, if they had beaten Georgia, I'd put them at number 1. I would. I'd probably put them at 2. I think Miami should be number 1. They played a good game. They played well enough to win. They just didn't. They couldn't close. Okay. You get a reset game against the Alabama-Birmingham Blazers. There's no money line offered for this game for good reason. UAB couldn't even blow out the lowly Akron Zips, who hadn't scored all year long up until last week in Birmingham, Alabama. Tennessee's a 38.5-point favorite. Guys, this is the same UAB team that gave up 42 points to Alabama State. The SWACs, Alabama State. Yeah, we're okay here with Tennessee. Rocky Top will be celebrating tonight or on Saturday. The rest of the season, it's go time. It's go time from there on out. But Tennessee will win this football game. Expect Aguilar to dominate. Expect Brazel and Staley and whatnot and Mike Matthews to get really going early in this game. For UAB, the defense is just not good enough. We've seen, Akron not score entire games against Wyoming and just get dominated all year long, and all of a sudden, Akron's beating UAB. I like Jalen Kitna. Shout out to Trent Dilfer, their head coach, right? Like they're kind of doing it the right way, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's like the Colorado mindset of sorts. Jalen Kitna's a talent. They just don't have enough all-around talent, obviously, to be competitive with Tennessee. I think they score once, and that's it. Tennessee will blow them out. I'm taking Rocky Top. The Volunteers will cover 38.5 points at home in Knoxville against the UAB Blazers. We go on now to our next game. Is this the 11 o'clock hour or the 12 o'clock hour? It is the 12 o'clock hour. Okay, we're going to skip Wagner in Central Michigan for obvious reasons over there in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, as we have got Oregon State versus Oregon. Okay. I don't think this is a tough one. Obviously, we get another Pac-12 rivalry this week, right, in the Apple Cup being played in Pullman. I know they're not both in the Pac-12 anymore. They're both gone. Well, actually, Washington State's still there. But you have the Apple Cup also this week, and now you get the Civil War. Did I call BYU and Utah it's the Holy War, is it not? My apologies. I believe, yeah, I called it, oh my goodness. I called Utah and BYU earlier the Civil War. It's the Holy War in Utah. It's the Civil War in Oregon. Okay, do you want to watch a 50-point blowout this week? Because if you do, watch the Civil War this week. I don't know how Oregon State beat them in 22. Oregon State was pretty good then. It's just, my goodness, guys. The way Oregon State has gone since winning the Civil War in 22 and the way Oregon has gone is just, it's unrecognizable. I mean, yes, Oregon's always gotten the better of Oregon State for the most part. Legitimately, here's the thing. Wazoo can stay competitive with Washington. And I'll get to that later in the video. For as bad as Wazoo is, I think they're going to find a way to stay close this week. We'll talk about that more later. Is Oregon State ever going to be on Oregon's level again? That's a legit question. Are they ever going to be on their level? Oregon, guys, they should be ranked third. If I had to make the rankings, I go Miami 1, I go LSU 2, and I go Oregon 3, and then I go Ohio State 4, and then I go Penn State 5. Okay, that's what I would do, okay? But unfortunately, that's not what happens. We have people voting for Florida after losing to South Florida some weeks. It's okay because, it's fun to discuss, college football rankings, and don't get me started on that whole debacle last week. I don't think Oregon State can ever be competitive with Oregon again. And it's going to take a long time until they are. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of that technically Oregon State's going to become a G6 team, and Oregon's obviously the cream of the crop in the Big Ten. This is going to look like OK State versus Oregon. It is. No amount of rivalry is going to be able to keep this game close. Oh, it's a rivalry game. It's the Civil War. Awesome. Where's the talent on Oregon State? The talent's in the quarterback position. Unfortunately, their quarterback hasn't played all that well this year. He'll throw for a bunch of yards. He'll make ill-advised throws. And he has no help around him. And oh, by the way, they can't run the football. Last week, Oregon State goes to Texas Tech. And they get flat out embarrassed. They get embarrassed. 45-14 loss. It's what we thought. They have the worst special teams unit in all of college football. It's a joke. It's a joke what goes down with Oregon State. Probably won't win 6 games, even though their schedule gets really easy in 3 weeks. I don't think they win 6 games. I think they're an embarrassment this season. They still have a home-and-home later in the year with Wazoo, which is something never seen before in college football, at least in the last 100 years. You know what Oregon brings? Dante Moore's been good. You can't ask for more to Dante Moore. He's not going to be Bo Nix. He's not going to be Dylan Gabriel. But for what he is and what he is as a sophomore, he's been very good for them. Now, once they take that next leap and they got to go to Penn State next week, that's a whole other issue. And when the mighty Hoosiers walk into Eugene in a couple weeks, we'll see too, right? We'll see just how great Dante Moore is. But against Oregon State, this is just going to be one-way traffic. I don't expect the game to be close. Line in this game is 34.5 points. It's crazy when a rivalry game, the in-state rivalry game in Oregon, it doesn't even have a spread. It doesn't even have a money line. You can't bet a money line here if you wanted to, which is insane to me. Quick side note, the Beavs have not gone into Eugene and won since 2007. They're not, I mean, last year Oregon beat them 49-14 in Corvallis, year before 31-7 in Eugene, but that's when Oregon State still had a program and Jonathan Smith didn't take everybody to East Lansing. That's the straw that broke the camel's back at Oregon State, let's just be honest, and in Corvallis. This is going to be a blowout. You know it, I know it, the American people know it. I'm taking the Ducks to go and utterly destroy the Oregon State Beavs at home. They need to win by 5 touchdowns. They should easily do that. I'm taking the Oregon Ducks at home to cover 34.5 points. Next up, we go to, all right, let's go. We've got some great games coming up. Not this one. Kent State versus Florida State. Yeah, okay, great. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say here. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. Kent State, I don't know why Kent State does this to themselves, man. I don't know why they do this. In Tallahassee last year, you went to Penn State, you went to Knoxville, you went to Pitt, you got blown out all 3. You do play Buffalo really competitive last week, and I will give Kent State props for that. I was really surprised the game was that close, and Buffalo had to win with a minute left. All right, Drew DeShields takes Kent State down the field in the 4th quarter with 2 minutes to go and scores a go-ahead touchdown with 2 minutes left. Holy crap, Kent State's going to win a game in the MAC. Nope. Here comes Taquan Robertson and Victor Snow and L.J. Henderson. They drive right down the field in about a minute and score the game-winning touchdown. Shout out to Buffalo. They're really good. I know they struggled with Kent State. Tough game on the road. Way more competitive than the game was last year, and that's just what happens when C.J. Agabana is gone, even though Robertson played a really good game. Roberson played a really good game. I'll say this. Kent's better than last season. But now you got to go to FSU? Oh, man. Get ready to hear the chop. This is gonna be bad all game long. Florida State might score 70 points. They might. Because here's the thing about Kent, okay? Their offense is low-key scoring now. Can their defense stop anybody, though? I mean, their defense had a chance to put them in the position to win their first MAC game since 2023. Did they win 23? 2022. Yeah, they had a chance to win their first MAC game since 2022, where, oh, by the way, they went to Buffalo and won with Tommy Ulatowski. That was their first opportunity to actually get one. And their defense couldn't get a hold and got driven on in a minute. It's a back-breaking type loss. And you look at your schedule, oh, we could have gotten one. We could have gotten 2-1. And then you look at your schedule, what do you mean we got to go to Tallahassee next week? What do you mean we got a bye week and then we're going to Norman, Oklahoma to take on John Maytier and the Oklahoma Sooners? Now, they can beat UMass. They actually might be able to beat UMass on October 11th. It's a long way away, though. They still got to go to Florida State. I'm not going to waste too much of your time here. But Florida State's going to blow them out. I'm really excited for Florida State and Miami in a couple weeks. That's a huge football game. Thomas Castellanos has played good enough to just win, okay? No, Thomas Castellanos is playing good football, okay? He's playing good football. Played well against Alabama. East Texas A&M game, what do you expect? FSU was off last week, so you get them here another basically bye week, and the next week, they're going to go to UVA and win. But that's a legitimate game, right? ACC game on the road Friday night. That's a tough spot. They get Kent State here, though. This game will not be competitive, right? Florida State will win the game by about 50-something points, in my opinion. Yeah. They're 43.5-point favorites. That's a lot of points. Would I bet it? No. There's just better games to bet on than sitting there and hoping in the 4th quarter Florida State can score that last touchdown to go over the top and cover against Kent State. Don't do that, okay? There's better games to bet on this week. And there's a better game coming up in a second. In like 2 games that I like a lot more. But anyways, I'm gonna go with Florida State to cover. This is just an easy spot for me, and I would not bet it in the slightest. Okay, now the good games shall begin. Here we go. SEC versus SEC in Norman, Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Sooners host the Auburn Tigers. This is what it's all about. This is the type of game you get excited for. This would be the game of the week if there's not another amazing game being played in Bloomington, Indiana on Saturday. This is a great football game. I can't wait for Auburn and Oklahoma. Guys, John Mateer has been everything he's been billed to be in 2025. We saw it last year with Wazoo. We're going to talk about, right, the Apple Cup later in today's video in Pullman. Why did Wazoo beat Washington last season? John Mateer. They're not going to win it this year because they don't have that guy. But I'm telling you, that's just how good Mateer is. He's an elite quarterback in college football. Oh, his numbers don't look great. He's thrown 3 interceptions. It's one of those guys who just passes the eye test. He's a legitimate star in college football. He's going to get Heisman votes. And he's been great so far this year. Beats Michigan, right? Oklahoma last week goes to Temple and wins, obviously, as Mateer and the guys put up 42 points on the Temple Owls and win it 42-3. So before their really tough game in 2 weeks, you thought I was going to say 3 weeks against Texas? No, 2 weeks against Kent State. They got to play Auburn first. Should be a really good football game, right? Auburn's coming off of beating South Alabama last week 31-15, which a little too close for my liking. The Jaguars can play, but really? And here's my thing with Auburn, right? Is Jackson Arnold good enough? Revenge game, right? Talked about it earlier, right? Billy Edwards playing his former team in Maryland. Well, this is even more extreme. Jackson Arnold's going to Norman. And we talk about the long lineage of really good quarterbacks for the Oklahoma Sooners. And it's a long list, legitimately. Since, goodness, 2015? Right? Because that's when Baker got there. Since 2015, it has been nothing but straight NFL talent at Oklahoma. You go from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray to Jalen Hurts to Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams to Dylan Gabriel. I always forget Gabriel ended up at Oklahoma because he ended up at 4 different schools. I know he resurrected his career at Oklahoma, but, you know, the Oregon run makes me forget about that. To all those guys, all NFL talent, to you, Jackson Arnold, you were next in line. And when eventually it's going to be talked about and Mateer is just the next guy, is Mateer going to be a starter like Caleb? Is he going to be a starter like top 10 quarterback like Baker, like Kyler, like a Super Bowl winner like Jalen Hurts? Probably not. He'll probably end up being a little bit. John Mateer, I think, is going to be kind of like Dylan Gabriel, I think, in the NFL. Like, solid backup. He'll be around for a while. Maybe get a shot once in a while. My point being, Jackson Arnold's going to be the guy that gets skipped in this long lineage of quarterbacks. He just will. 2024 is going to be the year where they lost the Armed Forces Bowl to Navy, where he didn't play, right? It was Hawkins, who's still around. But it's going to be the Jackson Arnold season, where he threw for 70 yards and they beat Alabama. I know he killed him on the ground that game. My thing, though, with not just Auburn, but with Jackson Arnold, too, is how far can he really take you? I'm just being honest. How far can Jackson Arnold truly take you right now? You're 3-0. You look good in week 1. Jackson Arnold runs for 140 yards on the ground against the Baylor Bears. Awesome. At Waco. Didn't think they were going to win that game. Great. You beat up on Ball State, who might be the worst team in the MAC, other than UMass. And then you beat South Alabama by 14 points. You beat them 31-15. Okay. Good. I'm glad you win. But that's it. It's a game where, South Alabama, were they ever really in it? Not really. But you kept him around. And that's my thing with Jackson Arnold. He doesn't do anything to move the needle. He's just a game manager. It's all right, handoffs. Okay, play action. Jackson Arnold's going to hit you for a gain of, 10 every once in a while. Oklahoma's a legitimate offense. They have a top 10 quarterback in college football, if not top 5. And they've got a great run game with not just Mateer, who can take off at any moment, but with Torrey Blaylock as well, who's averaging 5 yards a carry so far this season with 3 touchdowns. I think Jackson Arnold, guys, is going to see ghosts on the road. Back in Oklahoma, I think it's a really rough environment for him, if I'm being honest. And I have to go Oklahoma here. The way John Mateer's played this season, the way that Oklahoma's played this season, This is a top 10 team in the country, and I am so excited for them in Texas later in the year. Because legitimately, that's Oklahoma's game this season. I think it is. I don't know. I mean, I know Texas has got the better of them in the last couple seasons. I think Oklahoma might. Actually, no, Oklahoma beat them in 23. Who am I kidding? They beat them when Ewers was there. I think Oklahoma might get him again. We'll get to that later, obviously, in a couple weeks. Oklahoma looks legit to me. You beat Michigan. You look really good against Michigan. You dominate Temple on the road last week in Philadelphia. Oklahoma, I'm sold right now. All right. Give me the Sooners to win at home against Auburn, and they will cover the 5.5 points as well. Boomer Sooner. Give me Oklahoma. Next up, again, the good games keep on coming. Here we go. Ole Miss at home against the Tulane Green Wave. Who's starting at quarterback for Ole Miss? I don't know. Was Austin Simmons really hurt? Or was that just he's not playing all that well. He's, obviously a very talented guy, highly recruited prospect, but Lane Kiffin does what he wants and he's going to sit him down at the last second, or that was just a planned thing and he just got benched for Trinidad Chambliss. I don't know. You got your senior in Trinidad, right? Austin Simmons is a redshirt freshman. You have him around for a very long time. They say he's a sophomore now. Damn. They say he was injured. Was he really? Because, guys, Austin Simmons didn't play well in week 2 against Kentucky. They had to go on the road to Lexington to Kroger Field, and they get out of that one. Not because of Austin Simmons, though. Preseason, I was high on Simmons. Georgia State game, he made some mistakes, but was like, all right, clean up the picks. I see the vision. Kentucky game wasn't good. Austin Simmons against Arkansas essentially doesn't play. Throws one pass for a touchdown in that one. But it is all Trinidad in that football. Trinidad Chambliss, who is a senior quarterback, who has never played in a SEC football game. He's from, I don't even know what school he came from before, I'm going to be honest. It's a D2, I think he came from. I think. Yeah, definitely not FCS. He's a backup for Austin Simmons, but he got to start last week, and he plays okay. My question is, they're saying Austin Simmons was just injured. Is he actually hurt, or has he lost his starting job? And now, Lane Kiffin in Oklahoma is saying Austin Simmons, he has some sort of injury. Ole Miss is being accused of faking injuries right now. And also, Austin Simmons is a game-time decision for the Arkansas game. For the Tulane game, apparently. I don't know. Again, I don't know the truth on that. I saw one tweet about that, so I don't know if that's real or not. I don't know. Is he playing or not? I don't know who the starting quarterback is. Guys, I'll say it outright. I'm taking Tulane. I hope Austin Simmons plays. I do. I hope they go with Austin Simmons here. Because right now, watching last week, I think Trinidad Chambliss might be the better quarterback right now. Austin Simmons is 19. He didn't have a redshirt year. This could be his redshirt year. He's only played in 3 games. I think eventually he will start. Right? I think he probably will start this week. Tulane's solid, man. Tulane's really solid. So Ole Miss barely gets out of that game last week with Arkansas, right? They're in charge. They're in control of the game. Arkansas makes it close to the end, but Ole Miss was in control of that game for the most part. Tulane's going to give you a big problem. They are. And yes, I'm taking Tulane at plus 330. Am I betting that? No. I'm betting on the money. I'm betting on the spread. I'm betting plus 12.5 on Tulane. That's the best bet you can get here. Money line wise, I don't hate it. I'll say that. I don't hate it. I think the spread is way better, though, obviously. Look at what Tulane's done this year. South Alabama win by 2 points. In Alabama, you win it by 2 points. Okay. It's a good team. Week 1, you beat Northwestern at the Big Ten. Last week, you beat Duke. Darian Mensa revenge game? I don't think so. Welcome to Jake Retzlaff football. Premarital sex allowed in Louisiana. Nothing against BYU, but Jake Retzlaff, man, when he's allowed to, he's been good. He's been good. Last week, 245 yards in the air, but what he does on the ground is a difference maker. Jake Retzlaff, 17 carries, 111 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. My goodness. I like Tulane a lot this year, man. I do. Don't forget, 3 years ago, this team beat USC in the Cotton Bowl. It's a completely different squad. I get that. And they had Mensa last season. Tulane's the best G5 team, in my opinion. I think you're going to see them in the South Florida Bulls, likely in the American Championship game. Both teams still control their own destiny to the postseason, and I don't think USF should have been dropped from the rankings just because you lose to Miami, but it is what it is. Tulane's a really good football team, and they're going to beat Ole Miss this week. Ole Miss gives up too many points. Their offense is a question mark to me. Who's starting at quarterback? I don't even think Lane Kiffin knows who he's starting at quarterback this week. I don't think it's the advantage that you think it might be for them against Tulane. I don't think Tulane cares. Tulane got out to a very early lead last week against Duke and never gave it back. They went up 24-3 in that football game. They went at 34-27. Okay, because Duke's playing catch up in the third quarter. Fourth quarter comes around, Tulane's up 34-16. Game's over. You know, it's a difficult game for Ole Miss. Trust me, it is, because Tulane is such a trap. Because this is a playoff level team. Okay, and if Tulane doesn't win this game, this is going to be their Oregon-Boise State game last year. But I don't think they're losing. I think Retzlaff, if Jake Retzlaff went to Ole Miss, he'd be the starter at Ole Miss. Undoubtedly. If Jake Retzlaff went to over half of the SEC schools right now, he'd be the starter. It's an SEC caliber quarterback playing in the American. Tulane will go to Duke and win. They will go to Ole Miss and win. Their defense is good enough, and there's too many question marks for me around Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. I'm going to Lane Green Wave spread plus 12.5. Sprinkle on the money line, sure. The way better bet, though, is the spread. Give me the Green Wave. Next up, we go to the Big Ten. Michigan versus Nebraska in Lincoln. Is it time we start talking about how good Nebraska actually is? I enjoyed clowning on Dylan Raiola every week. I thought it was funny to clown on Dylan Raiola every week. And I get it, their wins this season are a tightly contested game in Kansas City against the Cincinnati Bearcats, a blowout victory over the horrible Akron Zips, and a blowout victory last week 59-7 against the Houston Christian Huskies, right? Yes, Huskies. I get it. They're not playing good teams yet. Well, except for Cincinnati. We are going to find out a lot about Nebraska this week. We are going to find out a whole lot about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Because you host Michigan this week. Michigan's a 2-1 squad. They get by New Mexico in week 1. They go to Norman and lose to John Mateer and the Oklahoma Sooners. And last week, you blow out the Central Michigan Chippewas to the surprise of absolutely nobody, right? I mean, Bryce Underwood might be Batman. He is Batman. He's great. I think Bryce Underwood's a great talent. I think he is. I think Dylan Raiola is better than Bryce Underwood. Is that crazy to say? I don't think it's crazy to say. Guys, everyone clowned Raiola last season, and I did too. Okay? Not gonna hide from that. He was still only a freshman last year. He's 20 years old now, and he's much better he's a much more composed quarterback. He's a much more calm quarterback, and he's adjusted now to the college football level. He is. And he's also completely gone into the, I'm Patrick Mahomes thing. Well, okay, Dylan Raiola is 3-0 this year. Patrick Mahomes is 0-2. Dylan Raiola has played better at the college level than Patrick Mahomes has played at the NFL level this season. That's not saying much. I know Patrick Mahomes doesn't get to play, the Michigan Panthers from the USFL, right? He doesn't get that luxury, right? He doesn't get to play the Memphis Maniacs from the XFL. I know they're not a team anymore, but you get what I mean, right? Raiola has played bad squads, but I do think it's impressive that Raiola hasn't thrown a pick this season, something he struggled with mightily last year, and he's almost already matched his total touchdown tally from last season as well. Sure, it's against bad teams, but you have to give Raiola credit. He's doing everything Nebraska's asking him to do. And their run game's pretty good too. How about Emmett Johnson so far this season? Guy's broken 100 yards in 2 of the games they played so far this year. He's got 326 total rushing yards as well. Nebraska is good. They get Michigan this week. I get it. Michigan defense is great. Justice Haynes, great running back for them. Bryce Underwood's a talent. I get that. True freshman getting to start. He's awesome. He's getting paid tens of millions of dollars to come play for the Michigan Wolverines. He's the future. He is. Nebraska's beating Michigan this week. Michigan's going to struggle. I think Michigan is going to struggle with the pass game and just struggle to move the ball in general against Nebraska. I know they're an unproven defense yet so far, because your only real game is against Brendan Sorbsy in Cincinnati. Yeah, I get that. I think they're going to see a lot of success stuffing Michigan, though. I think so. I think once you take away, and I'm hoping they can take away Justice Haynes, you're going to force Bryce Underwood to be the hero. And we are going to find out if Buddy is truly Batman. I'm never going to deny the talent Bryce Underwood is. I just question it in his first year as a collegiate football player as a freshman in the Big Ten. Because now it gets serious. The Oklahoma game, difficult. Really difficult. Now you got to play games that actually really matter, right? Because if you're Michigan, I don't know if playoffs is, you're thinking about playoffs. You can't lose another game. Can't. Maybe you might be able to afford to lose one, assuming you get the Ohio State game, which I don't know if I can assume that. I'm just saying that because of all the success Michigan has had against Ohio State over the last couple seasons and the games of the Big House this year. But you need this one. I think it's going to be difficult. You go into a Big Ten environment on the road, it's your first Big Ten game, and you're at Nebraska. Every big game Bryce Underwood's played so far this year is on the road. It's only one so far, but they lost. And it's the worst game he's played so far in his collegiate career at Oklahoma. I don't think he plays all that well in Nebraska, and I think Dylan Royola is going to do enough. He's thrown the ball pretty well this season, and I like the rushing attack as well. I like Emmett Johnson giving the Nebraska Cornhuskers to win at home against Michigan, plus 110. They are home dogs. Give me that. I'm going with Nebraska. Next up, we go to a Big 12 versus ACC matchup. Oh, am I out of order here? I might be out of order. It's fine. We'll go. Oh, no, I'm not. That's coming up next. My fault. Well, this could be a Big 10 versus Big 10 matchup if Notre Dame actually joins the Big 10 next season like they're talking about. Or the SEC. Interesting. Notre Dame versus Purdue. The ACC Big 12 matchup's coming up next. I got the wrong order. Notre Dame's hosting Purdue. Okay, well, this has been rough for Notre Dame. It's been really rough. You lose in week 1 to Miami. There's no shame in that. Miami's a great football team. That's a team that's going to win the ACC this season. They're going to the college football playoffs, and I believe Carson Beck's going to win the Heisman Trophy. It's last week, though, that hurts. Now, is Marcel Reed fully in the Heisman conversation just like Carson Beck is? Oh, yeah, he is. And hell, Johnny Manziel is really pumping up the campaign on Twitter. Hell, his profile picture is now Marcel Reed. I find it really funny, and it's cool on Johnny football. But Notre Dame, now you're 0-2. Game could have been in overtime last week if you could hit an extra point when it matters. Or convert the long snap / hold is really what I'm looking for there. Notre Dame played well last week. Marcel Reed just played better. That's ultimately what I can say, Every big blow Notre Dame landed, A&M responded. A&M never was out of that football game. Because again, Notre Dame would always score first. I mean, did A&M have a lead? They only had one lead the entire game. At the end of this first half, they went into halftime with the lead, the Le'Veon Moss rushing touchdown. They went up 28-24. For the rest of the game, they didn't have the lead. They were always playing catch-up. Notre Dame scores. Okay, here comes A&M to tie it with the field goal. Notre Dame kicks a field goal. Okay, A&M's going to kick a field goal to tie it again. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Here comes A&M. The difference maker was the 4th and 10 play by Marcel Reed. I thought the game was over. Marcel Reed makes the play of his life. Great ball in the end zone. Great catch in the end zone by the tight end. Touchdown A&M. They do the weird celebration. I don't know why they did it. And they did it with... that. I should have done that. Oh my goodness. Watch the game. Why did they do that celly? You go to Notre Dame and you do this celly? What? The biggest moment of your life. And that's the celly you do? Hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. It was kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. Notre Dame's playoff dreams just got killed. And these dudes are doing the don't get me started. Notre Dame's hosting Purdue this week. They should beat Purdue. But can they cover 27.5 points? The answer is no. They're not covering 27. Guys, USC's a really good football team, and I get the game was in West Lafayette. Purdue only loses by 16 to USC. Right now, USC would beat Notre Dame. Will they in 4 weeks? Will they in 5 weeks? I don't know. But right now, yes, USC beats Notre Dame. And I get it. You can't play college football math like that. It doesn't work like that. But I'm just telling you, Purdue isn't as bad as I thought they were going to be to start the season. Ryan Brown's playing well enough right now. Their run game kind of scares me. But Notre Dame shouldn't be favored by this many points against anybody. They should be favored, yes. They should be favored by 17 points. They have done nothing to deserve this yet. Their defense has shown they can't get stops. Their offense looked better last week, and obviously that rushing attack is really good. Jeremiah loved Jadarian Price. That's nasty. CJ Carr's been okay. He's no Riley Leonard, but he's been good. It's just Notre Dame has not warranted this big of a line yet. And I get it's Purdue. It's a game that Notre Dame is expected to fully roll over. Purdue's not even supposed to be in the same tier at all as Notre Dame, and they're not. I just wouldn't be, making Notre Dame this big of a favorite for this game. Okay? So I'm going to go with Purdue to win it. I'm going to go with Notre Dame to win, but Purdue to cover. I just don't think Notre Dame's that many points better than Purdue. Watch both of them play. Notre Dame can't get stops on defense right now. And the bye week didn't really help them. I mean, they still couldn't get a stop. I don't know. They'll beat Purdue. But the playoff, outlook for Notre Dame is looking bleak at this point. It just is, right? Look at their schedule. You got to run the table. And even then, will you get in at 10-2? And also, can you beat USC? Can you go to Arkansas and win? Probably. But now I don't know. Arkansas on the road will be trouble for this team. I'm just saying it will. Okay? Going Notre Dame to win, but I do believe Purdue covers 27.5 points. It's just too many points, guys. It's just too many points. I'm taking Purdue to cover. Next up, this is the matchup that we were talking about, ACC versus Big 12. North Carolina on the road against the Central Florida Knights. Give me UCF to win. Hesitantly, I'm going UNC to cover. Don't bet it, okay? Way better games of the 12:30 hour, in my opinion, to bet on are Tulane, Nebraska. It's a one game coming up I kind of like. Those two for sure. Then we'll talk about the rest of the 12:30 games in a minute. So we're still in the 12:30 hour, but North Carolina takes on Central Florida. Hesitantly, I'm going UNC plus 6.5, just because UCF has not impressed me so far. You beat Jack State by 7 points, and at the time, I was like, all right, I get that. That's fine. Jack State, good defense. Gavin Wimsatt didn't play a good game, but, that's a guy, again, former Big Ten quarterback at Rutgers. They run the ball. They chew the clock. That they can say, I'm okay with Jack State remaining competitive with Central Florida. But then I watched Jacksonville State play the rest of the year. You beat Liberty, sure, but then you lose to Georgia Southern and give up 41 points to J.C. French and Georgia Southern? And UCF could score 17 against that team? Ooh. If it wasn't for that Georgia Southern game, I wouldn't be really batting an eye, but I am now. You scored 17 points against a defense that gave up 41 to the Georgia Southern Eagles? Now I am concerned. I don't know. Is North Carolina good? No, they're not. I'll outright say it. North Carolina is not a good football team. They will try to pound the rock, and I guess June's their guy. I don't know. Is June their guy, or is it still Caleb Hood? Beats me. I don't know. Caleb Hood didn't play last week, so I assume it's still Caleb Hood if he's back, but who knows, okay? If there's anything I know out of watching Bill Belichick coach at the NFL level, which, by the way, what he did in the NFL just doesn't work in college, and also he doesn't have a guy named Tom Brady as his starting quarterback anymore who carried him throughout his entire career. He won with the Giants. He was a D coordinator back then. It wasn't just him. I think I would win too if I had Lawrence Taylor on my team. Okay? The greatest defensive player of all time. Anyways, I don't really know if Belichick translates to college football, and this whole, I'm just going to go running back by committee. I'm going to find my guy, and we're not going to really throw the ball. We're going to run it on first down. We're going to run it on second down, and if we're close on third down, we're going to run it again. If not, okay, well, Gio Lopez, get ready to throw on 3rd and 9 every single down. It's just, it's not a pathway to success for me. It's not a winning formula of football, in my opinion. It's just, I don't like what North Carolina does. I am taking them to cover because I don't think UCF's that talented. You've got your new quarterback, right? You're starting Taven Jackson, because Cam Fancher gets benched essentially. So you're going back to the IU product and Taven Jackson. Okay, that's fine. I thought it was supposed to be Fancher to start the year, but I don't know. It is what it is. Jackson's fine too. I just remember at the beginning of the season, in the offseason, a lot of people were expecting to be Cam Fancher. It's Taven Jackson. That's fine, right? Taven Jackson's a good quarterback. Got to watch him play at Indiana at one point. Couldn't beat out Brendan Sorbsy, but it is what it is, right? Taven Jackson's never been the best pure thrower of the football. He hasn't, okay? Never been the best pure thrower. He can use his legs, but UCF's not really allowing him to use his legs that much, you know? Jaden Nixon, 6 carries for 150 yards this year. And that all came, by the way, in the North Carolina A&T game. I'm not sold on Central Florida, guys. I'm not sold on Central Florida at all. They're not as good as USF. They don't... Taven Jackson's throwing the ball okay, but it's just, guys, it's that Jack State game to me. How are you that close to Jacksonville State, who since has not been good? I'm going UNC spread here. I am. I'm going North Carolina to cover. I don't love Gio Lopez. I don't love this whole Belichick crap. I think they're good enough to stay competitive against UCF. I think UCF eventually does win the football game, but I think North Carolina can play well enough. Again, it's just one of those games for me, though. I wouldn't bet it. I don't have a great read on either side, because North Carolina's victories are Charlotte and Richmond, and you lose to TCU and get blown out by TCU. And UCF's games, right? I mean, you should have blown out Jack State, apparently, looking at the way Jack State's playing right now, and then you beat North Carolina A&T. So I don't know where to put either of these squads, in my opinion. If anything, again, if I'm having doubts on it, I'm just going to take the spread to keep the game close, okay? North Carolina to go on the road to UCF and just stay close and competitive in Orlando, Florida. Next up, we go to a matchup between the Max, Ball State, and independent UConn. 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 For the UConn Huskies, last week losing to Delaware. Oh boy. Walk-off touchdown for the Delaware Blue Hens, their first ever victory at the FBS level. UConn now goes to 1-2 this season, with their only win being over Central Connecticut. They then proceed to have a very competitive game in overtime against Syracuse that we talked about earlier, but ultimately lose it. And then obviously then they go play Delaware, lose in overtime as well. So back-to-back OT losses for UConn. Joe Fagano plays a good game last week, but Minchiuchi, right, wins the game for Delaware. They let him run the ball a lot at the end of the game, and finally runs it in for a touchdown to win it. By the way, Delaware's running back Joe Silver had 15 carries for 179 yards. Yeah, a little concerning for UConn, a team that I actually thought was going to be pretty good in 2025. They haven't been entirely that so far. Good enough for them, though. You got to play the Ball State Cardinals. Ball State's not good. I'll say that right now. They're 1-2 this season. They barely got by UNH last week, New Hampshire. I believe that's where Max Brosmer was at one point right now with the Minnesota Vikings, Minnesota Golden Gophers quarterback last year. Ball State in their first 2 games this year lose 31-0 to Purdue on the road and then go to Auburn, lose 42-3. So you're thinking, okay, well, they're just playing, Big Ten and SEC schools. That's fair. That's fine. But then they go play New Hampshire and they only win the game by 5 points against New Hampshire. That's not fine, They're starting Kyle Kelly, who has not played great this season. He's not a difference maker throwing the ball. You got Kua Ashley, who's their best running back. Okay. Ran it up against UNH, had 12 carries for 154 yards. It's awesome. UConn should dominate. Games at UConn. Joe Fagano's still really good. It's just they ran into a Delaware team that just kept on scoring against them last week. I don't love their defense. But you know what I also don't love? The Ball State offense. I don't expect Ball State to score. I know UConn can score. I just don't know how well their defense is going to play. 20.5 points is not a lot. It's not. For a Ball State team, that guy's max is going to score 7 points this week, 14 points this week. UConn can score 40 plus this week. They can. They're at home. You're looking for a victory. You scored 41 points last week, and you still lost to Delaware, right? You gave Delaware their first ever victory in FBS football. I know they beat Delaware State early in the year, but that's not an FBS team. All right. UConn's got to be looking for some revenge, just of anything. They got to look to try to beat someone's ass this week, and that's going to beat Ball State. All right. Ball State's just not on their level. Ball State can't throw the football. Worst team in the MAC, either them or UAss or Kent State. I don't know. It's just the triangle of assness. I don't know why I tried to triangle of madness. No, the triangle of Macness. No, the triangle of ass. Those 3 squads. That's horrible. I apologize. But I'm going with UConn this week. I think Joe Fagano's a good quarterback. They ran into a tough team last week. I think Delaware's a lot better than I thought they were. A lot of people thought they were. And again, it's You don't know with the team, their first ever year of, college football, at least at this level. We've seen teams like Kennesaw struggle once they go up. But so far, so good, right, for Delaware. And it is what it is for UConn. Still a team that can throw the football all day long, and I just don't think Ball State has the secondary to keep up with this team. So I'm going to be going here with the home team, going to the UConn Huskies. No, it's not basketball, but they should be able to still beat Ball State this week. I'm taking UConn to cover. They will cover the 20.5 points. It's 3 touchdowns, right? I'll be damned if they can't cover 3 touchdowns at home against the very low level Ball State Cardinals. So give me UConn. Next up, we go to a matchup between the Liberty Flames at home in Lynchburg, Virginia, against the JMU Dukes. It looks like Vegas has finally corrected itself on Liberty. And I've been pointing this out the last 2 weeks, and it never made sense to me. Guys, I've watched Liberty play football. I watched them last year, and sure, I watched when Malik Willis was there. I watched when they got to the Fiesta Bowl against the Oregon Ducks, but I haven't seen it since. Guys, I keep saying it. Liberty was the biggest disappointment in 2024. They were supposed to go to the playoffs. They laid an egg. They lost at Kennesaw State, and they just weren't good. This season, more of the same. You lose Ken Salter to Colorado. I'll get to Colorado later. Who their starting quarterback is this week, I don't know. Liberty this season's a 1-2 team. We took Jacksonville State as underdogs at home against Liberty. Cashed. We took Bowling Green at home against Liberty as underdogs. Cash. We are 2-0 betting against Liberty, and we're doing it again. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a best bet because the value to me isn't all the way there. I think JMU is going to go to Liberty and blow them out personally. I believe JMU is just on a whole different level. I like what they do a lot with Alonzo Barnett and with the potential of Matthew Sluka playing as well. And actually, they use both of those guys. I love the 1-2 punch with the quarterback position. Barnett, more the traditional passer. That's actually what he is. Can run it a little bit, but he's mainly a pocket passer. And then you get your running threat, Matthew Sluka, who played at UNLV last year, former Holy Cross quarterback. He is a very mobile, agile guy who is not the best thrower of the football. And then you get George Pettaway at the backfield too, who's a really good running back for James Madison. I know their last game, they went to Louisville a couple weeks ago and lost. It is what it is. That's an ACC environment on the road. That's a difficult game. Week 1, they play Weber State and they blow out Weber State. Now they go on the road to play Liberty. Not a Sun Belt game, but I think JMU is going to be right there for the Sun Belt Championship this year. To me, again, it's JMU and Old Dominion for who's going to get out of the Sun Belt East. And the West is a whole nother issue. That's probably Texas State or Southern Miss for me right now. Maybe South Alabama. I could see them doing fairly well as well this season. Anyways, JMU is going to blow Liberty out. They will blow the Liberty Flames out because, guys, Liberty's not a good offensive football team. They scored 13 points last week to Bowling Green. They don't score in the first half, so they're down at halftime 10-0. Ethan Vasco, not ready for prime time. He's not. He had a decent week 2 at Jack State, but they were down by 1 million points by the time in which Vasco got going. Last week, I know they missed a field goal early in the game. It was a chip shot, like 38-yarder, and they should have scored, and they should have matched Bowling Green's field goal to start the game. But you can't convert in plus territory. You did outgain Bowling Green, but you turned the ball over at the same time 4 times. Vasco throws 2 interceptions. You fumble it twice as well. Vasco fumbled, but they recovered his. Reese Smith fumbled. One of their running backs, Caden Williams, fumbled. Oh, boy. Yeah, they're a mess right now, man. Liberty is an absolute mess. And yeah, you're at home now, and that's why I loved Bowling Green. I loved Jack State in those games because Liberty was getting all that respect on the road, which they did not. Nothing warranted that. Now they're at home against JMU, and right, Vegas has corrected the line. Liberty's now a plus 11 or 11.5 point dog at home. I don't think they cover that, man. I think James Madison steamrolls them. James Madison has a pretty solid defense. I know we're not the highest on Miller Moss in 2025 and what he's done post-USC career. JMU shuts down Miller Moss for the most part. Yeah, again, Louisville wins the football game as expected, but James Madison does play well enough in that game. If they play like they did against Louisville, the offense is only going to score more. They're only going to get, deeper into possessions. And they're going to play fairly well defensively against who's gone. Ethan Vasco, who, regardless of what you think about Miller Moss this season, Vasco's no Miller Moss. Liberty's not scoring more than 17 points this week, and I feel pretty confident that JMU gets to 28, okay, or it gets to 30. I can Guarantee that they will, okay? I believe the 2-quarterback system that James Madison runs is really going to affect Liberty, all right? Yeah, here comes Alonzo Barnett. Here comes Sluka, all right? You can expect pass with Barnett, but okay, well, what if we give it to one of our backs? Sluka comes in primarily a runner, but he can hand it off and he can throw it on the run too. It's difficult, man, and it's something that Sunbelt teams aren't going to see, and teams like Liberty playing in the CUSA are not going to be able to, or not going to see for most of the year. I like JMU a lot. I like what they're doing this year. Yes, again, they're a team that's 1-1 this season, but I like what James Madison's doing so far, and I think they'll go to 2-1 with a victory over Liberty. And yes, they will cover on the road as well. They will cover the 11.5 points. Next up, we go to a Sunbelt versus MAC game. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns versus the Eastern Michigan Eagles. So this was the game earlier when I said, oh, don't bet on UNC UCF. There's a game later that I think I like more, but I don't know if I like this more. I think Louisiana goes into into Splinty, Michigan, and beats EMU in their gray field. But I don't know. I think they do. Right? Louisiana, they're 1-2 this season, right? Guys, Louisiana last week goes to Missouri. They threw for 5 passing yards last week. Sorry, 4 passing yards, excuse me. Daniel Beal, who's the starter now, goes 1 for 8 for 5 yards. The backup quarterback, Lunch Winfield, comes in after the game's already over and goes 1 for 6 throwing the football for -1 yard. Oh, this is bad. It's really bad. I mean, it's crazy, and I get it. They're playing good teams and whatnot, but you go from being in the Sun Belt Championship game last year, having a premier quarterback in the conference in Ben Wooldridge, and now here we are. Also, their starting quarterback, Walker Howard, out for the season with injury. So Walker Howard, right, Ole Miss product. He can medical redshirt this year, so he'll stay a junior for next season. But yeah, this is brutal for him. He's out next year. He's out until next year. We'll see what happens. So you're without your starting quarterback from Ole Miss, guy who famously, right, dated Lane Kiffin's daughter. And now you're stuck with either Daniel Beal or Lunch Winfield. I assume it's going to be Beal. Beal's the guy who took over for Howard when he initially got injured. But oh my, he's not a very good passer right now. I mean, oh my goodness. In the Rice game, he went 0 for 6, 14 for 22 in the McNeese game, and 1 for 8 in the Mizzou game. He's thrown the ball to 40% completion rate for 90 yards so far this season in 3 games. He is a freshman, I get that. And they could go to Lunch Winfield, who is a sophomore, but has barely played collegiate football. He's gotten to actually play. He's been with the Raging Cajuns for a while, sat behind Wooldridge last year, but never played. He wasn't the backup. I think he was 4th last year. Oh, boy. You're going to East Michigan. I will say this about Louisiana, though. They can run the ball. They've got guys who can run effectively, right? And that's something I don't think EMU is going to be able to withhold. Look at Eastern Michigan. They are a joke, but at least they have a quarterback. You got a guy who used to play at Michigan State, Noah Kim. Kim can kind of sling it, right? They go to Kentucky last week. They lose the football game, but you know, they scored 23 points. I'll give them credit there. They can run the ball a little bit too. So I don't know. Again, this is one of these games though. I think that Louisiana should go on the road and win. But I don't know. You know, I just don't know. Oh man. Because it's just they don't move the ball through the air, and East Michigan does, but East Michigan's looked so bad this season, entirely so horrible. You lose to LIU Brooklyn on your own home field. Oh my goodness. I might actually switch this to East Michigan. No, I'm going Louisiana because the run game out of Louisiana for me. I don't think East Michigan's able to stop them on the ground. They're an 0-3 team. No, I almost fell into the trap. Oh, actually, let me take East Michigan. No, they lost to Long Island University on their own home field. No shot. And LIU ran the ball on them fairly effectively, too. Noah Kim's a talent. I guess he's got nothing around him. I think the Raging Cajuns, again, take away their quarterback play, which is brutal right now. Defense is still solid for the most part. You got a run game. I got to go with the Raging Cajuns. I can't fall into the Eastern Michigan trap. I'm taking the Raging Cajuns out of Louisiana to win the football game on the road against East Michigan at -140. Do not bet it, though, because right now Louisiana does not have a certain quarterback. Like, they don't have a guy who they can just point at. That's our quarterback, okay? They don't have that right now, so I would not bet on the football game, but give me the Raging Cajuns. Next up, we move on to a matchup between the Sun Belt's own, the Troy Trojans, as they go on the road to Buffalo, New York, to take on the Buffalo Bulls. Give me the Buffalo Bulls, okay? Last week was bad for Buffalo. It was, right? You come back and win. At the end of the day, you just want victories, right? And if you can get a win if you can get a win on the stat sheet and your record now says 2-1 instead of 1-2, that is all that matters, right? You don't care which team you get it against. You don't care how it looks against the Kent State Golden Flashes. As long as you win the game, good on you, right? So good on Buffalo for winning that football game. Was it disappointing? Yes. Okay, it was entirely disappointing for Buffalo. The fact that they're in a close game with Kent State, the defense, who was lost all 3 of their starting linebackers last season, guys who led the MAC last year in tackles. Your defense now gives up 28 points to the lowly Kent State Golden Flashes. However, the flashes of success and the flashes of greatness we've seen out of Buffalo this season has been with their offense. I'm talking about Taquan Robertson. I'm talking about Aljay Henderson. I'm talking about Victor Snow. These guys have been very good for Buffalo all year long. It's the same core as last year. It's just you replace Agbana now with Roberson. And Roberson has done a very good job in replacing Agbana, in my opinion. I had my doubts. He's been good. He's been really good so far. So I think Buffalo beats up on Troy. Troy's claim to fame this year is, we played Clemson close. Guys, if Buffalo went to Clemson, they played them close too. Especially the way Clemson played in that first half. I'm not making excuses for Clemson. I'm not going to even tell you that Clemson's that good because I don't think they are. But they played as bad of a first half as you could possibly play. Klubnik throws some horrible balls. Obviously throws the pick 6 to Troy. Nothing Troy did offensively really put them in a position to be winning at halftime 16-0. It's everything that, every mistake that Clemson made allowed Troy to be so competitive. Not to take anything away from the Trojans, but I think that's kind of what we got to take out of that. I'm just got to be honest about that. Buffalo should beat them in a track race this week. They should. All right. In a track meet, right? Like, this should be Buffalo. Every time they touch the football, they should be scoring. I don't think Troy's got the defense to hold them. Memphis only scored 28 points, sure. Buffalo, though, they are such an explosive offense. I'd argue Buffalo has a better offense than Memphis. The one thing that concerns me about Buffalo is undoubtedly their defense. Is Troy going to score on their defense? Probably not. Troy can't throw the ball, guys. Their quarterback last week, Tucker Kilcrease, went 10 for 30 throwing the football. Their top runner, Jordan Lovett, had 8 carries for 50 yards. They don't move the ball at all. And sure, that was against Memphis, and they've ran into tough opponents so far this season, right? In Memphis, in Clemson. Week 1, they beat up on Nichols, but only beat Nichols by 18 points, and they started Goose Crowder in that game, and he's obviously since been moved to the bench. I don't believe in Troy at all. Yeah, Buffalo's defense isn't great, but sure, they got through a road game. They beat Kent State, and they found a way to win, okay? They are going to find a way this week, and I firmly believe that they will, to win at home against Troy, and they will cover the points as well. Taquan Roberson's playing good football. Aljay Henderson was great last season. He's good again this year. Victor Snow's a good receiver, and oh, by the way, how about Nick McMillan, who played a great game last week, 6 catches for 111 yards against Kent State. He was around last year, just didn't have a big role in this team. McMillan's role is even bigger this year. Guys, I know they played a competitive game against Kent State. This is my favorite team in the MAC. I love watching Buffalo play football, and I think they're really good again this season. So give me Buffalo to win, and they will cover the 6.5 points at home against Troy, who just they don't deserve to be in there with them, okay? Or they won't keep the game close is what I'm trying to get at here, okay? Give me Buffalo out the MAC. Not a MAC game though, right? Because this is a MAC game. Here it is, right? Toledo taking on the West Michigan Broncos. I'm taking Toledo to win, and I'm taking them to cover 2. I talk about Buffalo being really good in the MAC. Toledo is really good in the MAC too, though. Elite program right now. Tucker Gleason. I can speak at lengths about how good this guy is. I was so impressed by Toledo's victory over Western Kentucky. They dominate the Hilltoppers, a team that I am pretty high on right now in the CUSA. Tucker Gleason does everything Toledo needs him to do, and they can run the ball on you too now, and their defense is really shut down, right? Look at Maverick in that Western Kentucky offense. There's not much going on against Toledo. Toledo shuts them down, wins the game 45-21. Last week against Morgan State, Toledo wins the football game 60-0, right? Not a competition. Now they have to go to Kalamazoo, right? West Michigan's in Kalamazoo. Yes, they have to go to Kalamazoo, Michigan to take on the Western Michigan Broncos. A team that was competitive against North Texas, I'll give them that. Competitive against Michigan State. But that competitiveness eventually ran out last week when they went to Urbana-Champaign and got blown out by Illinois. However, that's Illinois, right? That's a top 10 team in the country right now. Are they really top 10? I don't know. Just wait till we get to their matchup in Bloomington later. But West Michigan, right, they get blown out. They lose 38-0. Starting quarterback for this team is they have two quarterbacks. I assume it's Brock Lowry still. Brock Lowry's not going to throw for many yards. A lot of what West Michigan's going to do is going to be on the ground with the run game. They do have another quarterback in Brady Jones, I believe his name is. Yes, Brady Jones. It seems to me Brock Lowry's their guy. They're just one of these stagnant teams on offense that don't really move the ball. And, they're just one of these squads that will keep it competitive with you if they can play good defense, win field positioning battles, and play well in special teams, is what I will say. Because that's ultimately what happened in the UNT game, the North Texas game. West Michigan stays in it, but UNT outgains them by over 100 yards in that game, and yet that's a game that goes to overtime, right? It felt like to me West Michigan was extremely lucky to be in a position to win that football game. There's a lot that went wrong for UNT in that game. West Michigan had a 14-point lead in the third quarter, and obviously UNT came storming back, and that's what I like about North Texas. They are a resilient bunch. I'm just not sold on Western Michigan. They will bleed the clock. They will run it down your throat, or at least attempt to. They'll look to have long drives. That's great and all, but what happens when you're trailing by a bunch of points and Toledo's scoring a bunch on you? Because that's just what Gleason and the guys do for the Rockets. They have a very all-around great offensive unit. They've got guys who can run the football. Multiple guys can run the football. They have a couple good receivers as well that I like. Toledo's a good team. They are. And I don't think, going on the road and going to Kalamazoo's a hostile environment. It's not. It's Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm not too concerned about that. I'm taking Tucker Gleason and the Toledo Rockets to go on the road and win. They're 13.5-point favorites. They should cover. They should. This offense will score. West Michigan, they will do their thing where they're going to bleed the clock. Clock's going to be ticking the entire game, obviously, because they're going to keep it on the ground for the most part. A lot of short passing opportunities. They really don't take many shots downfield. However, what happens now when you're losing in your first MAC game of the season, all right? You kind of have to pick up the intensity a little bit, and I just don't think that's going to go too well for them. I think Toledo's going to throw them off their game, and also this is a West Michigan team that right now is just used to losing. You're 0-3 this season, so give me the Toledo Rockets on the road in Kalamazoo. They should take care of business and beat up on the Western Michigan Broncos and cover the 13.5 points. Next up, we go to the only game starting at exactly 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock out there on the East Coast, Battle of North Carolina, as the Duke Blue Devils host the North Carolina State Wolfpack. I actually really like Duke here. And this might be a best bet. I don't know. Probably not. Because, it might be. It's a perfect buy low spot for Duke. It is. And I know they're still favorites, and that's okay. So that doesn't really, that doesn't always signify a buy low, a team that's still a favorite. But I think if you take away Duke's, obviously, if you take away Duke's last two games, they'd be favored here. I think going into the season, Duke was definitely favored to beat North Carolina State. NC State's been all right this season. They've just found ways to win, right? Week 1, a non-con game against Virginia, a weird non-conference ACC matchup. Don't ask me how that works because I can't even explain it to you. Well, no, they scheduled it before. I don't know. NC State and Virginia have been in the ACC for a while. How is that a non? I can't even explain to you that one. I can explain to you why last week's K-State Arizona game wasn't a conference game because they scheduled that game before Arizona said that they were going to the Big 12 from the Pac-12. Why was Virginia NC State a non-con? Don't know. But NC State is 3-0 this season. Last week, their first official Atlantic Coast Conference game where they go on the road to Wake Forest and they win. They win it 34-24. CJ Bailey plays an all-right game, but it's really the run game that wins it for North Carolina State. Hollywood Smothers has been excellent this season. Ran for 164 yards in the Wake Forest game on the road. Ran for 140 yards at home against Virginia in week number 2. Week 1 is a close one against East Carolina, but they win as well. And that's what North Carolina State has done this season. Every game is competitive, but they just find ways to win. Week 1 against ECU, 24-17 victory. Week 2 against Virginia, 35-31 victory. Last week against Wake Forest on Thursday night, they win at 34-24, in which they were losing a lot of that game. They were down early. It's just that second half was all NC State. You go into halftime with Wake Forest having a 24-17 lead. NC State comes back. They score 17 points in their own right in the second half, and they come back and cover. Good teams win. Great teams cover. But they're losing this week to Duke. I know I've picked against Duke pretty adamantly the last 2 weeks. I've come on and told you and made best bets out of it. Illinois is definitely beating them. Tulane's definitely beating them. Yeah. Those were just levels games. Illinois is on a higher level, obviously. Tulane is on a higher level. Duke now, though, is on a higher level than NC State. I don't care you lose back-to-back games. Duke still has more talent. I like CJ Bailey. Mensah's still a better quarterback, in my opinion. And Duke will be able to move the ball a lot more than North Carolina State will be able to. Because here's the thing, guys. If North Carolina State gets down by, 17, 10 points to Duke like they did against Wake Forest, there's no coming back from that on the road this time around. You can come back against the Demon Deacons, a team that beat Kennesaw State this season by 1 point to 10-9. You can come back against a team like that. You cannot come back against a team like Duke with a quarterback like Darian Mensah. And I know I've spent the last couple weeks kind of going at Mensah for saying, okay, well, you left Tulane for this. And he did lose to his former school last week. That's brutal, right? But Duke's passing attack should win them this football game against North Carolina State. I don't think North Carolina State's ready for it. I don't think they are. Hollywood Smothers has run the ball really well. I'll give him credit. If Duke does anything, they do, like last week against Tulane, it wasn't Javian Gordon who hurt them on the run. It wasn't Mobley who hurt them on the run. It wasn't Arnold Barnes who hurt Duke with the run. Those are obviously the three main backs for Tulane. It was Jake Retzlaff. Pure running backs. I mean, Barnes goes 5 for 27. Gordon goes 7 for 18. Mobley goes 5 for 7. I'm not telling you Hollywood Smothers is going to have a line like that, but watch the way Duke stops those guys. And sure, again, Retzlaff has his night. I mean, we'll see if CJ Bailey tries to take off all that many times. He probably will, but I don't think he's going to have the success that Retzlaff had. I think they're going to do well enough stuffing the Hollywood Smothers run game. And if you can take away Hollywood Smothers, yeah, NC State's not the same squad. So I'm going with the Duke Blue Devils here. It's a great spot for them, in my opinion. Again, perfect buy low. At the beginning of the year, they're a minus 200 favorite here. And sure, they've lost back-to-back games, but here's the thing. They've lost good games to good teams. Just because I picked against them the last couple weeks and have remained pretty adamant at that they're not better than those two squads, doesn't mean they can't beat these lower-level ACC schools. And yes, that's what North Carolina State just is. Wake Forest is not a high-level team, in my opinion. Virginia, it's Virginia. You know, you beat Virginia by 4 points at home. I like Chandler Morris, but we'll see. I'll have more on Virginia later in the video and how I don't actually think they're that great. I'm going here with Duke to win at home against NC State. Best bet probably for this is minus 135. Just go straight money line for Duke. Don't know if this is going to get featured in the best bets because I don't know if it's good enough to be, but we'll see. Give me Duke to win at home, though. They are much better than North Carolina State, in my opinion. It's just they face tough teams, and if North Carolina State faced the schedule that Duke faced, they'd have the same exact record, and they would have looked a lot worse. They would have not played a competitive game, in my opinion, at Tulane last week, like Duke did. Even though they were trailing and playing catch-up the entire game, I don't think NC State does that on the road. So, we move on to our next game. Let's go to Starkville, Mississippi, as we have got the Northern Illinois Huskies going on the road to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Can NIU pull off another one of their crazy upsets? Last year, right, they go to South Bend, Indiana, and beat Notre Dame before Notre Dame then goes on to win 13 straight games to go to the national championship game. Not saying that's going to happen in Mississippi State, but here come the Bulldogs as they host the Huskies this week, again from Mississippi. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start of the season for Mississippi State, and trust me, you needed that start. Because, guys, even if the Bulldogs win this week, which they should, right? They are minus 2,800 favorites. I don't even know if they're favored to win 6 games the rest of the year. Look at their schedule after Northern Illinois this week, right? So Blake Shapen's got his crew at 3-0 right now. They beat Southern Miss on the road. They beat Arizona State in a thriller of a game. Obviously, huge 60-yard touchdown to win it at the end of the game for Mississippi State after they blew a huge lead. They still find a way to win it. You blow out Alcorn State last week, 63-0 like expected. And now here's the gauntlet of a schedule you have in the Southeastern Conference. You get Northern Illinois this week. It might get Mississippi State ranked. Just because you're 4-0, you have a win over Arizona State when they were ranked number 12. It might get them ranked going into a home matchup with Tennessee. Then you get A&M. Then you get Florida, which Florida is not very good. So maybe, DJ Lagway throwing 5 interceptions a game. Yikes. Then you get Texas. Then you got to go to Arkansas. Then you get Georgia. Then Mizzou on the road. Then Ole Miss. Wow. I mean, that's what the Southeastern Conference is. That's why you have the super conferences now in the SEC and the Big Ten. Imagine if Notre Dame joins the SEC. I don't know why they'd want that. I don't know why you just wouldn't go to the ACC, but anyways. Mississippi State, in their last really tune-up week, is going to put it on Northern Illinois. They will absolutely put it on this team. An NIU team that struggles to score. Josh Holst, their starting quarterback, does not move the needle at all. In 2 games, he has 192 passing yards and an interception. He was here at NIU last year. He was the backup, obviously. He's not a guy that's going to take over a football game, nor is their run game going to decide a game as well. You've got two running backs, Siobhan Wright and Telly Johnson. Two guys who can get it done, but not two guys that are going to be, difference makers in an SEC football game this weekend. Northern Illinois so far this season has played Holy Cross. They won the game by 2 points at home against Holy Cross. And no, Matthew Sluka is not there anymore. And they go to Maryland and play a competitive game at University Park. They lose it by 11 points. More so, that's just me. Maryland can't score. Mississippi State's going to score. All right? I know it's an FCS game last week. They put up 63 points on Alcorn State. And that's not a good team in the SWAC, I understand. I'm pretty sure they're pretty bad for the SWAC. But scoring 63 points in the game is an accomplishment. And it shows, again, we are capable of this. Beating Arizona State, solid. Putting 34 points on Southern Miss, solid. If they put up 34 points this week, I believe they still cover. I think they do. I don't think Northern Illinois scores more than 10 points, more than a touchdown this week. Just because Mississippi State has the Southeastern Conference defense. They've got talent, obviously, and they've got way more talent than Northern Illinois. And for the first time in a while, Mississippi State's playing with legitimate confidence. And they're going to need a lot of that confidence going into next week at home against the Tennessee Volunteers. So we will cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, yes, Mississippi State will cover 22.5 points. I feel like it's an easy line. Guys, Blake Shapen's playing the best football of his career. Quite easily, I believe. Senior quarterback, was at Baylor at Mississippi State last year, wasn't the starter all year long. He's playing great football right now. Again, the confidence he needed was essentially walking off Arizona State as, fans rushed the field down there in Mississippi. He needed that victory. The program needed that victory. And they need to put out a statement this week against Northern Illinois just to get themselves ready for SEC play and the schedule that awaits them. Give me Mississippi State and Blake Shapen to cover 22.5 points at home this week against the Northern Illinois Huskies. Good luck the rest of the way out. We'll keep on covering them. Next up, we move on to the only 1:30 game as we go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets hosting the Temple Owls. Good on Georgia Tech. They are a ranked football team now, 18th in the country after beating the Clemson Tigers last week. Who said that was going to happen, right? Who told you Georgia Tech was winning that game? Georgia Tech's 3-0 now. We had them on a best bet against Colorado. What do? They cover. Best bet against Clemson. They win. And, they're underdogs, and cover. Week 2, FCS game, they beat up on Gardner-Webb. Now they host Temple. They don't even got to go to Lincoln Financial in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. No. They get Temple on their own home field. And I believe 24.5 is a bargain. To the point where I'm considering, if you watch the best bets, I never put lines this big on the best bets just because a lot can go wrong. The margin of error is just, it's odd for these games, right? Georgia Tech can play a great game. They can be up by 35 points with 10 minutes to go. And hell, actually the biggest example of this can be Villanova Penn State last week. Penn State's up by 50-something points, 40-something points. And on the final play of the game, Villanova's quarterback turns into Josh Allen, runs around, turns into Patrick Mahomes legitimately. Nova's quarterback finds his receiver who makes an Odell Beckham type grab with one hand and secures the backdoor cover. That's why I hate spreads like that. Anyways, I'm not telling you Temple's going to do the same exact thing this week, but this line does feel pretty good just because of the fact, all right, Temple last week went to Oklahoma and lost. And yes, is John Maytier amazing? Oh, he is. But you lose the game 42-3 against the Sooners on the road, actually at home against Norman. Sorry, they hosted Oklahoma. And you lose 42-3 on your own home field. John Maytier runs for a 51-yard touchdown. Who's a quarterback in college football who does nothing but run? Oh, it's Haynes King for Georgia Tech. Now, he throws the ball a little bit too, but that's Haynes King's game. Ran for 103 yards last week against the Clemson Tigers. If you had trouble containing the John Maytier scrambling ability and the John Maytier running ability, I wonder what's going to happen against Haynes King. Now, obviously, Haynes King's not the passing threat that John Maytier is, but look at the passing game Haynes King had last week against Clemson. 20 for 28 throwing the football for 211 yards. Temple goes on the road now, and Temple, by the way, I can't treat their win seriously. You beat Howard out the MEAC, awesome, and you beat UAss on the road. Massachusetts is horrible. That was the game that made me call them UAss. They're so horrible. They can't move the ball. Oh my God, they handed that game to Temple. Whatever, don't care. They lost 42-10 to UMass against Temple. But those are your early victories. Now you got to go to Georgia Tech, a Georgia Tech team that has the most momentum that they've had in years. Guys, Georgia Tech, they're thinking playoffs. You got to be thinking playoffs now. You're 3-0. Your toughest game is Georgia. But it's a non-con game. So even if you lose that game, In a perfect world, if you're Georgia Tech, you're thinking 11-1 going into the ACC championship game against probably Miami, in a position where if you win, obviously, you are guaranteed a bye in the postseason. It's the best spot Georgia Tech's been in I don't know how many years. Legitimately, I cannot tell you the last time Georgia Tech has been this decent and had this much, obviously, hype around them. I legitimately cannot tell you the last time Georgia Tech, was on this level. I would say, I don't know. Anyways, Georgia Tech will dominate Temple this week. This is the game where, again, they continue that momentum of last week and dominate Temple. Temple wasn't able to stop John Mateer in the run game. What happens with Haynes King? What happens with Jamal Haynes out the backfield as well? It's a good team. It's a good Georgia Tech team that, I'm not over-exaggerating when I say they should be 11-0 going into the Georgia game. What game does Georgia Tech lose from here to the end of the season? At Duke? At Boston College? They just lost to Stanford. They play an extremely weak ACC schedule, but they already beat Clemson, but no SMU, no Miami, no Florida State. Kind of set now. There is an off chance Miami could lose one game in the regular season to Florida State and miss the ACC championship game, which would probably secure them a bid in the playoffs as an at-large. I'm just saying, the ACC's got talent this season. Don't forget about Southern Methodist as well. Just saying, they have not lost an ACC game just yet either. They haven't played one. So, I like Georgia Tech to dominate Temple here. The line should be a lot more, in my opinion. I think Georgia Tech runs right over this team, and I don't think Temple scores. Final score prediction, 41-0. 41-7 Georgia Tech. That'll be enough to cover, obviously. Not sold at Temple. I'm not at all. Okay. Moving on to our next game, we go to, I know I didn't spend much time on Temple there, but I have nothing to say, okay? I need to see them against other teams in the G5, because we haven't, other than UMass, who's the bottom of the barrel. Next up, Big 12 matchup, right? West Virginia goes on the road to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the Kansas Jayhawks. We are on to the 3 o'clock hour. Unfortunately, we have to skip Idaho and San Jose State. Oh, no. Just wait for the Battle of the Bay next week. Not Cal versus Stanford. San Jose State versus Stanford at the farm. Can't wait. Okay, Kansas hosts West Virginia. WVU's coming off of the biggest win they could possibly get. They win the backyard brawl. They get it 31-24 at home last week against Eli Holstein in Pittsburgh. I didn't think it was going to happen, especially coming off their loss to the Ohio Bobcats in the week before. Good on WVU. They win the game. Ty Edwards has a monster game on the ground, 25 carries for 141 yards. Good on them. Pitt was up by 10 points in the fourth quarter. West Virginia scores 10 straight to close the game. They have a 13-play, 87-yard drive to take the game in overtime, and they win the game in overtime. Again, good on West Virginia. I got to give them a lot of credit. Now you're in trouble, though. You're in big trouble. Taking on these Kansas Jayhawks. Yeah, this is going to be difficult for them. Kansas runs the ball like it's nobody's business. Okay, and Jalen Daniels. Well, they don't really run the ball like we used to. They're a backfield by committee this year, kind of. It's a lot of Daniel Highshaw. But anyways, Jalen Daniels, who has been around college football for a while, he will run the ball on you, and he can also air it out too. It's a difficult defense to work against. Difficult offense to prepare against. That's what I will say. They struggled last week or 2 weeks ago against Mizzou. Okay, watch them play Fresno in week 0. Watch the Wagner victory. Anything Kansas wants, they get. Anything they want offensively, they get in those games. And they didn't play that poorly against Missouri. You go on the road to an SEC school. That's a difficult game. It's a difficult game that Kansas was up 21-6 in the first quarter. They ultimately just could not keep up with the pace. Well, they were up in the fourth quarter, but Mizzou just pulled away as the game went on. Jamal Roberts broke it open with a huge touchdown to close the game out for Missouri. That's okay. It's not a conference game. I get it's kind of a rivalry game, but who cares? Kansas is still a very capable team. And you get West Virginia, who, won last week in overtime. I get it. Ty Edwards had a great game. That's not sustainable, man. It's not. Like I said earlier, if you're West Virginia, you can't fall behind. I said this with the Duke game, with NC State. WVU can't fall behind Kansas like that because Kansas is just going to continue to put it on them. Watch Kansas, Fresno State. Fresno State falls behind, and it's over. Because Kansas will get stops eventually, and Kansas will just keep on scoring. And that's my thing. How is West Virginia going to get stops? I don't think they're going to. I think Jalen Daniels, again, who is a fifth-year senior, who's been around college football for a very long time. He has kind of embraced the unkness, or, I've been around for a while. I'm the oldest starting quarterback in the Power 4, which is not entirely true, but he said it himself on TikTok. He's an experienced guy. He's been around, and it's the first Big 12 game of the season for Kansas. If you're the Jayhawks, you can't allow what happened to you last year to happen again this year. Don't remember, 2024, they started Big 12 play 0-3 and lost competitive games at Morgantown against West Virginia, against Texas Christian, against Arizona State. Can't let that happen to you again, and I don't think it's going to happen to them again. They got so much better as the season went on last year. Sure, Devin Neal's not there anymore. Highshaw's a very capable running back, man. And Jalen Daniels, very capable quarterback as well for the Jayhawks. They will win this game at home against WVU. In my opinion, they will cover as well, 12.5 points. I just don't think West Virginia is going to be able to keep up, so that's why I'm going with the Jayhawks to win and cover at home. Next up, we go to Pitbull Stadium in Miami, Florida. Hopefully no 3-hour-long lightning delay this week, eh? FIU hosts the Delaware Blue Hens. I was wrong. Okay, I was very wrong about FIU versus FAU, but in the first half, I was feeling pretty good about myself, right? Thought it was a good read. We got FAU at plus money. FAU, they're shutting down FIU for the most part on defense, and Caden Vetkamp's playing a good game. We go into halftime. All right, cool. Hoot, hoot. Give me the Owls. They're up 21-17. FIU, then goes on to score 3 consecutive touchdowns. Eventually, the Panthers win the game 38-28. That sucked. I don't know. Vetkamp, for as much as he launches the ball and for as much confidence as FAU has in him to just unload it the entire game, ball security is a problem. Can't throw 3 picks, and I don't know if he's ready for prime time. Caden Vetkamp last year doesn't do that against FIU, I don't think. Not at all. I think he dominates the FIU defense last season at Western Kentucky, right? It was disappointing to say the least. That's what I will say. It was disappointing out of FAU last week. Instead, FIU now is going to host the Delaware Blue Hens. If Delaware is able to hold on to the football, they're going to win. Delaware is too explosive for FIU, in my opinion. FIU, yes, they scored a bunch. Keon Jenkins, he did his thing, but it was really the run game with Kajan Owens. Owens, 19 carries, 173 yards. I mean, he's their guy. Yes, they will run Keon Jenkins as well, and he has the capability of being a dual threat guy. That is a thing that FIU will look for. But it is Owens. 173 yards last week and 2 touchdowns. The thing is, FAU ran the ball fairly well too, and FAU had a lot of success. I believe FAU still outgained FIU. They did. FAU had 500 total yards of offense. I can't imagine Delaware is not going to be able to do the same exact thing. A team in Delaware who had 500 yards of offense. Yes, their defense is bad. I get that. But partially, them giving up a bunch of yards last week in Delaware is a product of Joe Fagano. It's a product of, Fagano being really great, 345 passing yards, and UConn's just overall offense. Because again, I don't think UConn's that bad. Hell, we took UConn to win and cover this week as big favorites, right? That's how much I believe in them. And yes, they were playing Ball State, but still, right? FIU, for me, I don't think this is sustainable at the Panthers to win shootouts, because that's not how they are built to play. They did it last week, but a product of that was Vetkamp's throwing picks and FIU's just taking advantage. I don't know how Minchiuchi's going to play. Last week, 265 yards passing, a touchdown. They let him run the ball a lot last week, okay? He had 3 rushing touchdowns. Again, his yardage isn't going to look great because of the sack, so his final tally is 18 carries for 20 yards, but he got sacked, so obviously college, right? Sacks affect your rushing yards. Joe Silver, their running back, my goodness, had a 70-yard touchdown, 15 carries for 180 yards. Blue Hens are good. Kyrie Duplessis had a very long, I think it was a 68-yard touchdown. Shout out to Kyrie Duplessis. Is he South African? I don't know. I don't think he's South African. Drekus is the only Duplessis I know. But going with Delaware at home. On the road. I'm going Delaware on the road. It's a great chance to snag plus money. Delaware's offense is very explosive. They score. And their run game's good. Minchiuchi, he can run, he can throw. I've been pleasantly surprised with Delaware this season. It is a conference game in the CUSA, the first of which for Delaware ever. First ever CUSA football game, and I believe they're going to go on the road and deliver. So yes, we are picking against FIU for the 2nd consecutive week. I think Delaware is going to make that adjustment, and they are going to be able to stop Owens this week from FIU, and I think they're going to force Keon Jenkins to beat them. And if you can force Keon Jenkins to beat you, I personally believe you're in a great spot to win. So I like what Delaware's doing right now. I'm taking the Blue Hens to go on the road to FIU and win the football game. Give me Blue Hens money line at plus 145. The spread's not horrible either, though. Plus 4.5 is not a bad move at all. I'm probably going to play the spread, but I think the money line is very possible too. And I think Delaware, again, if I had to pick, I think they're winning the game as well. The spread is probably better. You might see this in the best bets later in the week. Next up, let's go to Kennesaw, Georgia, as we've got the Kennesaw State Owls hosting the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Sunbelt versus CUSA here. Kennesaw State's still not that good. They beat Merrimack 27-13. Now they beat Merrimack by a lot more than Kent State beats Merrimack by. Kent State beat Merrimack by 4 points and arguably should have lost that game if Merrimack played just a little bit better and could cover a kickoff return, but that's neither here or there. Kennesaw State beats Merrimack last week. The Warriors 27-13. It's a game that they're in control of, right? Going into the fourth quarter, Kennesaw State's up 24-0. Merrimack has a pick six in there. They score a touchdown as well on a full offensive drive. That's how they scored their 13 points. But as a whole, right, Kennesaw was in full control of the football game. I don't love this team, though. They look good against Merrimack, yeah, but you scored 9, and sure, you're competitive against Wake Forest. To me, though, that's just Wake Forest is not good. Not, oh, look at Kennesaw this season. Because look at when Kennesaw played Indiana. Is Indiana a top 10 team in the country, in my opinion? They are. Is Fernando Mendoza arguably the second best quarterback in college football right now, or third best quarterback in college football right now, behind fourth? Carson Beck, Garrett Nussmer, and Devin Dampier? Probably. But you go to Indiana, lose 56-9. That's more like it, though, at Kennesaw, who doesn't really, I'm assuming Amari Odom's their guy. They do run Dexter Williams as well. Dexter Williams will throw, and they will give Dexter Williams chances, the former Indiana Hoosier. But I'm pretty sure Amari Odom's going to be the starting quarterback going forward. Former Wofford talent. He's a sophomore. To me, Odom's the better guy. Look at last week. He went 12 for 14 on his passes. He just looks better than Dexter Williams. Dexter Williams more of a runner too. Amari Odom, I believe, gives them a better chance to win. But you host Arkansas State this week, and an Arkansas State team that did not play all that well against Arkansas on the road, but that's expected. A team that was very competitive last week at home against Iowa State. Again, is Iowa State really a top 15 team in the country? After last week's performance, I don't think you can say that. But Arkansas State plays a very competitive game. Shout out to Jalen Rayner, who is a very efficient quarterback down in the Sun Belt, one of the better Sun Belt QBs. He's a junior. He's a guy who was at Arkansas State last year and tore it up quite a bit for them last season, almost at 3,000 passing yards. I like Rayner quite a bit, right? I think the Arkansas State offense is too explosive for Kennesaw. I wonder how Kennesaw is going to score, and I don't know how they contain Jalen Rayner as well, a guy who, when he sees bad defenses, he kind of just goes out there and exploits them. Look at the Southeastern Missouri game. 345 yards for Jalen Rayner on 26 of 32 passing and 3 touchdowns. Again, against bad defenses, Jalen Rayner kind of chews them up. It's a guy who, if he has another good year at Arkansas State this year, expect to see him in the ACC next year. Expect to see him maybe in, I don't think he's really equipped for the Big 12. ACC. I think a team in the ACC like a Wake Forest, which I know is not a great step up. VTech, if they're done with Kyron Drones by then. One of those schools, I believe, is going to be a pathway for Jalen Rayner. Or I could see him in the Mountain West. I can see him at Nevada next season. I think there's spots for Jalen Rayner. I don't know if he wants to go from Arkansas State to Nevada, in all fairness. But there will be opportunities for Jalen Rayner at a higher level next season. And he should just completely decimate the Kennesaw State defense with an offense as well who probably can't respond and probably can't answer to Jalen Rayner and Arkansas State. Have they been low scoring the last 2 weeks? Yes. They played Iowa State and Arkansas. And their defense held Iowa State to 24 points. For as bad as 1 and 2 looks, I believe it's slowly actually all coming together right now for the Red Wolves at Jonesboro, Arkansas. I'm taking the Arkansas State Red Wolves to go on the road to Kennesaw State and cover the 6.5 points. That's not a lot of points against a bad football team in Kennesaw who probably won't be able to score all that much, especially, again, coming off playing a team who's coming off only giving up 27 to Iowa State. Come on now. Give me Arkansas State. Let's move on now to a Southeastern Conference matchup as the South Carolina Gamecocks go to Missouri, to Columbia, to kick off the 4 o'clock hour. And this is where it really gets good. Well, 4:30 is where it really gets great because there are some premier matchups at 4:30. 4 o'clock, some good games, but it really gets going at 4:30. This is a good game, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be a great game if South Carolina continues to play like they did last week, okay? And I questioned what they were beyond Lenora Sellers, and we kind of found out what they were last week without Lenora Sellers. Lenora Sellers, concussion. I mean, it's got to be what it is. I don't know if it's officially been ruled a concussion yet, but he goes out of the game, targeting call. It is what it is. It sucks. Vandy steamrolls South Carolina in Columbia. And so that got answered. What is South Carolina without Lenora Sellers? Okay, it's been confirmed it's a concussion. What are they without Lenora Sellers? They're not a very good team. Lenora Sellers keeps them into games. Their run game, not great. Luke Doty, who is a receiver, is the backup quarterback, who looks just like Dricus Duplessis, like I said last week. Doty tries, but he throws for 150 yards, but again, it's too little too late at that point. They don't run the ball that well, and without Lenora Sellers, who I know wasn't playing his best football, I get that. He was playing pretty poorly against VTech, not great against South Carolina State. Still, though, you take that guy away, and it's just a much worse football team. So they get, again, I don't even think they were that great with Lenora Sellers, but obviously Sellers was what was keeping them going. You go without him, oh man. They are going to walk into Missouri this week and get destroyed. Missouri outdueled Kansas. Missouri's playing good football. Ahmad Hardy ran for 250 yards last week against the Raging Cajuns. Yes, 250 yards he ran for. He's got 470 on the season. 100 in the Central Arkansas game, 100 plus in the Kansas game, 250 against the Raging Cajuns. How's South Carolina going to stop that? How's South Carolina going to respond offensively? Diego Pavia and Vandy did just enough. Well, no, they did more than enough, right? They ran the ball down South Carolina's throat. They were able to win field positioning, and Diego Pavia in Diego Pavia fashion puts his team in a position to win. And he also scored Theo Vaughn a date with his mom. Not joking, that's a real thing. Shout out to the SEC Network for actually covering that. It's hilarious. Even though, why is Diego Pavia wanting that? I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's like that. When I first heard of it, I was like, oh, okay, so Theo Vaughn, South Carolina wins, then it's just like a bet they made. Okay, now I get to get on a date with your mom. No, it's just Pavio's playing for the date. Okay, sure, I guess. Theo Vaughn was ecstatic at the end of the game. They interviewed him on the sidelines. It's like Theo Vaughn won the Super Bowl. They're interviewing him because he won a date with Diego Pavia's mom. It's crazy. Anyways, this isn't about Vandy. It's about South Carolina, who obviously Pavia beat. Without Lenora Sellers, I really struggled to, I struggle to pick them or even stay competitive in this game. Missouri's going to score, Passing attack's good. Ahmad Hardy, really good. Jamal Roberts, their other back, really solid too. Marquise Davis, another one of their backs, solid. How is South Carolina going to stay in the game, especially without Lenora Sellers? He won't be back this week, right? Concussion. At best, he'll be back next or 2 weeks. I don't even know if he's going to be back though for that, right? Are they on bye week next week? I think they might be. No, they got to go play Kentucky next week. They probably will beat Kentucky without Lenora Sellers. And I don't know what's going on with Calzada, if he's out or what. I don't know. But without Lenora Sellers, South Carolina's even worse than they already were. So I struggled to pick this team at all this year without Sellers, and sure, he'll be back. But right now, it's going to be tough sledding for them, just like it was last week against Vanderbilt. So give me the Missouri Tigers. I love what they got offensively right now. I think Missouri's playing great football. And, oh, by the way, the game's in Columbia. Yeah, Missouri wins, and they cover the 13.5 points as well, 12.5 points as well. Next up, oh, what a banger we got here, man. Oh, this is what gets you going in the morning, right? This is what I can't wait for. CUSA versus Sun Belt football as the Marshall Thundering Herd go on the road to take on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. All right, this is it. This is the game of the week. Why didn't game day go to Murfreesboro, Tennessee? Marshall's a 2.5 point favorite on the road, which I don't get. I don't get that at all. I know Middle Tennessee, I coined them maybe the worst team in college football last week, but they go to Nevada and win. Right? Beats me. You go to Reno, you win the football game in front of 5 people. Nicholas Viato with a game-winning rushing touchdown at the end of it to win the game for Middle Tennessee. concluded an 11-play, 76-yard drive with 20 seconds to go, and Middle Tennessee was down 13-0 going into the fourth quarter, but they found a way to win. Got to give credit to where credit is due. They beat Chuba Purdy and Nevada. Chuba Purdy and AJ Bianco as well. I don't know what's going on in Nevada right now. They are a mess too. Bottom of the barrel Mountain West this season. They play later in the day, so hold on for them. I believe we have them today, right? Yes, we do. I remember making a graphic with Nevada, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, Marshall now goes on the road. They are favored to beat Middle Tennessee State. Okay, actually, Nevada's the next game. Okay. I guess, guys, Marshall, though, lost to Missouri State in their own home field. You gave Missouri State their first ever victory in FBS football. I'm not going to put too much into that. Like, I don't think Missouri State's as bad as they thought they were to start the year. Because at the start of the year, to me, on paper, they were one of the worst teams. But you beat Marshall on the road. And also, and I'm not going to cover Missouri State today because they play UT Martin at 4. That's not an FBS game. But you're kind of competitive against Southern Methodist last week. Good for you. Jacob Clark's playing well. Marshall doesn't move the ball in Missouri State, though. They run it kind of well, but Zion Turner, their quarterback, does not move the needle at all for Marshall. He's thrown for 183 yards this season, but doesn't play last week against Eastern Kentucky. Instead, it was Jordan Potts who gets the start. No, it's Carlos Del Rio Wilson. My goodness. Jordan Potts is the quarterback for Eastern Kentucky. It's Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Plays all right against EKU. Only throws for 100 yards on 7 of 9 passing. Again, that's just not what Marshall's going to do, Marshall's not going to be a pass-heavy team this season, especially, they got all their talent taken away from them because they all went to Southern Miss, right? Braylon Braxton and company. So if it's Carlos Del Rio Wilson this week, sure. I don't know, it's a guy who is backing up at Syracuse, has not played a collegiate snap since 2023, where he did get some run. I actually think Middle Tennessee is going to win here, guys. This, to me, screams low-scoring CUSA snooze fest. Nicholas Vallado, Middle Tennessee is going to let him throw the ball. He threw it 44 times last week, and, they needed a big quarter in the fourth out of him and just a big drive at the end of the game to eventually win it for the Blue Raiders. So good on them, right? Saved a lot of people their jobs. They go to Reno and pick up a good, feel-good victory. And that's why I think they're going to parlay that into a victory at home against Marshall. I mean, you got to take that momentum somewhere. Is Nevada a good team? No, but you go cross-country and beat a Mountain West school in the cold in Reno? Gotta take that. That's a good win. It's a game you're not expected to win. You were 9.5-point dogs. You go on the road and win it outright? For how bad you looked in the first couple weeks of the year? Against a Marshall team that doesn't really throw the ball that well. Yeah, they're going to run it with 5 different guys, including their quarterbacks. Yes, Carlos Del Rio Wilson and Ja'Kai Long, 2 guys who played quarterback last week. I think Middle Tennessee is going to win. Would I bet it? No, I wouldn't. I would not put my hard-earned U.S. dollar on the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, but I do think it's an opportunity for them to win this week, so I will be backing them. I'm going Middle Tennessee at home as underdogs. Bet it at your own risk, okay? Like that's all I will say on that. Let's move on to our next game. Here is the aforementioned Nevada Wolfpack. So who's starting this week for Nevada? Is it Chuba Purdy? Is it AJ Bianco? I don't know, right? Nevada, one of the worst teams in college football this season. They needed a come-from-behind victory on an interception for a touchdown against Sacramento State, an FCS school. And yes, Sac State has the most funding ever. They got Rodney Hammond from Pittsburgh. He's not even the leading running back. They have so much talent at Sacramento State. They're going to the Pac-12 likely next season. I'm pretty sure they are. Good on them. They got Jaden Rashada, who started at Arizona State once, from Pittsburgh, California. Or is he from Antioch or Pittsburgh? He's from Pittsburgh. Even though they're starting Cardell Williams. Regardless, my point being, Sac State's got a bunch of talent, so that's great. But Nevada at home should have lost to Sacramento State. If Cardell Williams doesn't throw that interception for a touchdown with 2 minutes to go, Nevada's 0-3 right now. They get bailed out in that game with the pick six, and last week they choke a 14-0 lead at home against the god-awful Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. And now you got to go back cross-country to play WKU? Oh, man. This is a bad spot for them. It's a horrible spot for them. Sam Houston's better than Nevada. Sam Houston went to Western Kentucky and lost 41-24. Western Kentucky has been sitting on this blowout loss, 45-21 at Toledo at the Glass Bowl, for 2 weeks now. They've been sitting on it, they lost, and they had to hit a bye week right after. So they've been preparing for Nevada football for 2 weeks now. They definitely watched that entire game against Middle Tennessee. Hell, they play both of the teams this season. They play Middle Tennessee later in the year in November over in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And they witnessed a team that they are expected to probably beat by 20-plus points this year go into Reno and beat the Nevada Wolfpack. Western Kentucky should have the utmost confidence to win this game, and they should know that they will win this football game. This is an easy spot for them. Maverick is great. He is. He's a good quarterback. 950 yards this season, 10 touchdowns and a pick. Yes, did the entire team struggle at Toledo? 100%. Partially, though, they don't run the ball at all, or at least they can't run the ball that well. They could not get a stop defensively against Toledo. Again, Tucker Gleason and the Rockets are a good team. Nevada's not. So again, my question, who's starting for Nevada this week? Because they played both Chuba Purdy and A.J. Bianco. A.J. Bianco played a lot more, and that's not just last week. No, they played both of them in the Penn State game, too. I don't know what Nevada's doing. I don't know what they're doing. I think it might be Bianco. I don't know. They're both, guys, I'm sorry. They're both not good, okay? There's a reason, by the way. Chuba Purdy, he's not, he's Brock's younger, obviously, because Brock graduated in 22. But Chuba Purdy's 24 years of age. His brother is the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers who's gone to the Super Bowl before, and he's still in college, Chuba is. A guy who stopped at Florida State, stopped at Nebraska, and now here at Nevada. There's a reason he's still playing college football. I hate to be harsh, but there's a reason for that, guys. I think Western Kentucky dominates the football game. I can break down X's and O's for you, matchups. Western Kentucky just will outman them, and they'll outmeet them at the line of scrimmage. Shout out Marcus Freeman for that quote. And Maverick should dominate the game offensively in the pass game. I don't think Nevada's got an answer. They faced a lineup last week, or a team in Middle Tennessee that could not punch the ball in once they got over midfield and just stalled out at every drive imaginable. Yet that's all fun and games when that's in your home stadium in Reno and you're getting stops and you're feeling good about yourself. You're up by 13 points. What happens now when Western Kentucky's putting the ball down your throat, all right, and they're throwing the ball all over the place, and you're down by 14 points and it's just the second quarter, and oh, by the way, you're stuck in West Kentucky. And you've gone cross country to play this football game, and now you're staring down 1-3, and you don't even know who your starting quarterback is. I hate it for Nevada. Their one bright spot has been their run game with, Herschel Turner was really good last week, 12 carries, 90 yards, had a 64-yard run in there as well. I can't trust in Nevada football right now. Got to go Western Kentucky. Don't even know who's starting between Bianco and Purdy. I know Maverick's going to have a good night, though, for WKU, and I expect the Hilltoppers to win at home in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and cover the 11.5 points as well. Next up, Mountain West football. So, I mean, technically this was a Mountain West game, right, with Nevada. This is Mountain West versus Mountain West. As Boise State goes on the road to take on the Air Force Falcons. Who told you last week Air Force was not going to beat Utah State, and Utah State was a very good underdog at home? Oh, I did. Bryson Barnes, 5 touchdowns. I'm telling you, senior year Bryson Barnes, there's no one breathing down his neck, trying to take his job anymore. Bryson Barnes is playing free football, he's playing loose football, and he's looking pretty good. So shout out to the Aggies of Utah State. Anyways, I don't think they play this week, right? They're playing McNeese. They're not featured in the video. They'll be 3-1 going into a Vandy game next week. Oh, yikes. Boise State goes on the road to Colorado Springs, Colorado to take on the Air Force Falcons. I told you Air Force didn't really move the needle for me. Week 1 they beat Bucknell, but Utah State's a good program. They are. They're better than you think they are. Air Force, for me, again, you have 2 quarterbacks, right? You got Josh Johnson and you got Liam Zarka. They both can run. They both run that wing T, but obviously they're throwing the ball too. Cade Harris and Owen Allen are the main 2 backs. They gave the ball to Owen Allen 16 times in their game last week against the Utah State Aggies. But Utah State, everything they wanted offensively, they got, right? Bryson Barnes plays a tremendous football game. They're throwing the ball up and down the field. Bryson Barnes is taking off and running. The running backs are taking off. It's just 49 points for Utah State. They score. I mean, they really take over in the fourth quarter. Don't get me wrong, in the second half. But 49 points, oh man. Can't trust in the Air Force defense. And that's the thing with Air Force. Sure, they're throwing the ball a lot better this season, Like Josh Johnson, I believe, is going to continue to be their starter. So they're throwing the ball better now. They're not as traditional run, but even though Air Force, right, they've always historically thrown the ball a little bit more than Navy and Army. They're still not equipped, though, to come back into football games, right? Once they fall behind early, it's difficult for them. They're going to fall behind very early against Boise State. Boise State is a 1-1 football team this year. They ran into South Florida in week 1. I don't think anybody expected South Florida to be the team that they have been so far. I know they just lost to Miami, but look at the teams they played in the first 3 weeks. Somehow they're not ranked because we have to rank 0-2 Notre Dame still. Regardless, Boise ran into the wrong team in week number 1. You're coming off a playoff year last year. Ashton Genty's the runner-up for the Heisman behind Travis Hunter. You have all that momentum, and you run into USF, and they beat you at home. Okay, or you go on the road and lose to USF right in Tampa. It sucks. You go back to the blue field last week, or 2 weeks ago, and you beat up on Eastern Washington on a Friday night. Maddox Madsen throws for 307 yards. Dylan Riley has 6 carries for 123 yards, and Sear Gaines has 14 carries for 98 yards. They beat up on Eastern Washington, right? Red field versus blue field, right? The blue turf wins for Boise State, right? EWU's got their really cool red field. Anyways, Boise should dominate Air Force. Because again, if Utah State's scoring 49 points, and I like the Aggies this season, I still firmly believe Boise's a better offensive unit. So if Utah State's able to do that to you, what the hell is Boise going to do to you? You know, I just don't think it goes well for Air Force. I think they're going to fall behind early, and Boise's just going to continuously put it on them. You know, a lot was made out of their week 1 loss, Boise. They're still by far the favorites to win the Mountain West. Playoffs is a whole nother thing, though, because they got to go to Notre Dame, and that's going to be their second loss, and that's probably not going to equate into playoff year. I'm serious. I believe the playoff team this year out of the G5 has to come out the American Conference. But for now, I'm taking the Boise State Broncos to go into Colorado Springs, Colorado, and beat up on the Air Force, minus 12.5 points. Once Boise gets ahead early, I just don't think Air Force is able to catch up. So it can be Boise to win and cover the points as well. Next up, we go to the Fun Belt, Sun Belt. All right, South Alabama hosts Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is horrible. I don't want to sound extreme, but they are pretty bad, guys. They are a pretty bad football team this season. I knew it was doomed for them when Emmett Brown went down with a potential career-ending injury. Last week, they're at home against East Carolina, and they lose 38-0. Okay? Tad Hudson gets the starting assignment over MJ Morris. We saw that potentially happening at the end of the game that they beat Charleston Southern in, right? They went to Tad Hudson, and Hudson performed a lot better than MJ Morris did when MJ Morris threw 3 interceptions against the Buccaneers of Charleston Southern. But we knew it was bad, right, when, MJ Morris, former NC State transfer, and Coastal was struggling to get by Charleston Southern on their own home turf, right? It is cool, by the way, that Coastal Carolina is doing the all-you-can-eat food now, which, I mean, the get-in price, I know they're at South Alabama this week, but, like, the next home game is UL Monroe. It's $20 to get in the building, and you got unlimited food. I've seen videos of it, too. You walk up to the concession stands, and they just have food available. Oh, here's a hot dog. Here's pizza. Grab a drink, whatever you want. It's already filled up for you. Crazy deal. Like, I don't care they suck at football. I go every week, and you get to watch on that beautiful field, too, over in your Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I might make a trip out to Coastal Carolina just for that. I mean, like, what's stopping me from watching Coastal Carolina and Georgia State on Saturday, November 8th, right? Like, come on now. Or on a Thursday night where they play Marshall. It's calling my name right now. Anyways, Coastal versus South Alabama is going to be really difficult for Coastal Carolina. Guys, here, it's difficult to win a football game when you can't score. Okay? So the objective of the name of the game in football is you have to score as many points as possible to win. I don't know if Coastal Carolina can score more than 14 points. South Alabama is 1-2, but I mentioned them earlier. Out of the teams that I liked out the Sun Belt, South Alabama is in that list of teams that I like. Yeah, they're 1-2, and yeah, they played Morgan State kind of competitively in week 1, but you almost beat Tulane in week 2 at home. You lose by 2 points, and look how good Tulane is. Last week you go to Auburn, you only lose by 16 points. I'm okay with that. You lose your starting quarterback in Gio Lopez, you go to Bishop Davenport this year, and Davenport's been solid. I like Kentrell Bullock as well. I think he runs the ball fairly well, right? For what Davenport's been having to do, play Tulane, play Auburn, done a decent job. Guys, Bishop Davenport's got like a 75% completion rate, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere around that range. 73? Like a 73% completion rate. He's an efficient quarterback. And South Alabama will always be moving the ball this week on Coastal Carolina, a team that not only can't score, team that also can't get stops. Guys, Eastern Carolina last week walks into Coastal and they win the game 38-0. Caden Hauser throws for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, Coastal's in a really weird spot. They are. I thought they were going to be much better this year. Last year, they were a 6-6 team. They lost a lot in the portal. They had a bad recruiting cycle, and I don't know. I mean, nothing has been the same since Grayson McCall left. You know? When Grayson McCall was here, they were winning games. And I know, well, McCall was there for the BYU year too. Yeah, man, he was there for 3 years. He went to NC State. Then he had to medically retire. That's so brutal. This team arguably should have been in the playoffs in 2020 if it was. They would have been in the playoffs if it was a 12-team year. They beat Zach Wilson and BYU. It's a shame to see where they're at now. It is. They're going to get blown out this week by Bishop Davenport in South Alabama. The Jaguars are levels ahead of Coastal Carolina. Can't get stops and can't score. That usually doesn't turn into winning football games, unfortunately. So I'm going to go with South Alabama to win and cover. They are 14.5-point favorites at home. They're going to win the game by probably 4 scores. It's going to look like East Carolina Coastal did last week, but probably just worse because this time around, South Alabama's at home. Coastal's not, they don't get the luxury of playing in South Carolina this time. They got to go to Alabama. It just won't go well for them. As we now move on to the games of the week. Not, we're not doing the old format where the best games are at the end, but we're going down the list, and here we go. There's 2 really good games back-to-back, and another one coming up. The 4:30 hour is really loaded. And now, it really gets going with our next game, but this one first. It's college game day location, obviously. Miami's hosting Florida. Guys, Miami's the best team in college football, and I don't know how you can say otherwise. I don't know how you can. Defense, amazing. USF beats Florida, and they beat Boise in back-to-back weeks. They roll into Hard Rock. They score 12 points. Carson Beck had him on the best bets for over on passing yards. 340 yards for Carson Beck. That's the Heisman. Odds-on favorite now to win the Heisman Trophy is Carson Beck. Who said that in the offseason? Who said that the minute he transferred from Georgia? I've been saying it over and over again. Carson Beck's winning the Heisman, Miami's winning the ACC, and they're probably winning the national championship. I said it before the Notre Dame game. I said it in the preseason. I said it during college basketball season when it happened. Here we are. They will dominate the Florida Gators, and the game will not be competitive. Guys, how is the line only 8.5 points? Oh, it's a rivalry. Oh, Florida versus Miami. It's close every single season. I guess. Last year, Florida went at home, lost to Miami 41-17. This game's supposed to be close this year? 8.5 points. Are we serious? 8.5 points. Are we watching the same Florida team right now? Like, are we watching the same team as the odds makers are watching right now? Do they know something we don't? They only lost by 10 to LSU. Yeah, and DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions. The question coming out of that game is not what the hell is going on with DJ Lagway. It's the question that Brian Kelly actually got asked in the post-game press conference. How do you only come away with 20 points? Why are you so inefficient on 3rd down? Good for LSU. They win the game. That's all you can do. But DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions. I know one was to seal the game, but you throw 5 picks and LSU only scores 20 points off of that? Lagway goes 33 for 49 passing, 1 touchdown, and 5 interceptions. He's only a sophomore. He will be fine. He's still got a junior year and potentially a senior year to play. He's not going to the NFL draft for this year. That's for damn sure, obviously. He kind of taken a step back from last year, kind of. But that's okay. He plays any bit like that, like he did last week against LSU, against Miami. Florida's getting blown out this week, guys. And I don't care, if Lagway even plays well. He's not going to play well. Miami's going to score every single time they touch the ball. I get it. Florida's defense is actually pretty good, right? Ultimately, you're right. You hold LSU to 20 points. LSU was not great on 3rd down. They were horrible on 3rd down. You know who's going to convert 3rd downs? Carson Beck in Miami. Carson Beck in that loaded receiving core with Mark Fletcher out the backfield. I mean, I cannot speak higher enough about the Miami Hurricanes this season. Florida lost to USF in the swamp. USF goes to Gainesville and they lose, and Florida loses. And now you're only an 8.5 point dog against the best team in the country right now? I mean, that one to me, make sense. I don't understand that one at all. I don't get it. Miami is levels better than Florida. Passing wise, they're levels ahead. Defensively, I would say they are. I would. Guys, Notre Dame just scored 40 points against Texas A&M. They scored 24 against Miami. Miami turns the ball over on Notre Dame. South Florida beats Boise, scores 30 plus points. Beats Florida, sure didn't score many on them. They scored 12 points in Miami against the Hurricanes. And to make matters worse for the Florida Gators, the best quarterback in college football plays on the Miami Hurricanes. It didn't make sense to me why Georgia chose Gunnar Stockton over him. Oh, hell of an effort out of Gunnar Stockton last weekend? Yeah. Georgia easily beats Tennessee with Carson Beck instead of Gunnar Stockton. Those struggles they had at the beginning of the game, they don't have that with Carson Beck. Carson Beck is the most complete college football quarterback. He will go in the first round of the draft, and this was just an easy tell. Cam Ward went from Wazoo to Miami and became the #1 overall pick. Carson Beck comes from Georgia to Miami. What do you expect to happen? The talent's always been there. Kirby Smart, scheme, Gunnar Stockton held Carson Beck back. Comes to Miami. He's the best player in college football. They will dominate the Florida Gators. The saving grace for Florida has been their defense. It's not going to save them on Saturday. Game day's in Miami. Crowd's going to be pumping at Hard Rock. Miami dominates the Florida Gators. It will not be a competitive game. 8.5 is not enough. They need 20, man. I'm so serious. I 20, and then I would think about it. Miami dominates. As we move on now to the game of the week. Oh, hit my camera. Whoop, accidentally. The game of the week. The Indiana Hoosiers at home. There's a reason I'm wearing this jersey, right? The Indiana Hoosiers at home against the Illinois Fighting Illini. Indiana's winning this football game. I have no doubts in my mind they will not beat Illinois. And Indiana, after they win, should be ranked number 8. They should be the 8th best team in the country after this win. At home on NBC. When is the last time Indiana got the NBC primetime slot? Oh, they never have. It's just they don't get this spot. It's Indiana, right? Indiana has been reserved for Peacock. They're reserved for the 12 o'clock hour on ESPN. They rarely get this opportunity. Indiana hosts Illinois. It's the biggest game that's been played in Bloomington. I'd argue this decade, 100% it is. No, 100% it is. COVID year, but there's no crowd. I would say right when Michigan came into Indiana, or the I guess the Penn State game where Penix beat him in overtime, but that doesn't apply. There's no fans in the stadium. Illinois comes into Indiana. This is the vision Kurt Signetti has planned for Indiana. Right? Everything that he envisioned has come true. He took the SEC, non-con scheduling and took it to heart. Scheduled Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. They're 3-0. And Indiana dominates those 3 games. He's made Fernando Mendoza look like a top 5 quarterback in college football this season. You have a great run game. You've got 3 backs who can really run it. You got Kalen Black. You've got Roman Hemby. You also got Lee Beebe as well who can run it. And you've got a great receiving core. Guys you returned from last year. You returned Omar Cooper, Elijah Sarah. You've got Charlie Becker, who is a highly touted recruit, who obviously won't play in big spots yet. And you also got E.J. Williams as well. It is a loaded receiving core, right? You get E.J. Williams, right? He's been in Indiana for a couple years, right? But former Clemson guy at Indiana. Elijah Sarah, obviously. Crazy portal get for them a couple of years, or last year. Was great with Curtis Rourke, obviously coming on over from JMU. Everything Signetti has built is right here. You got a primetime game. Illinois is trotting into Indiana as the ninth best team in the country. And Indiana's a 4.5-point favorite. Indiana will put it on Illinois this week. We just haven't gotten to see Indiana unleashed yet. They're better than they were last season. They just don't have the real easy schedule, I'll just be honest, that they had last year. Last year, everything really went Indiana's way with the scheduling. This year, I said it a long time ago, I'll say it again, they need to find a way to either go to Happy Valley and win or go to Eugene, Oregon and win. I think the more likely outcome is going to Happy Valley at this point, but maybe it's Eugene. I don't know. We'll see. They do get Oregon a week after Oregon gets Penn State, so maybe we can find someone, we can work something there. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. They couldn't go to Columbus last year and win, but again, this is what Cignetti's built. He did not just build a 1-year team last year that could go to the playoffs. No, he has built trying to build a blue chip program in Bloomington, Indiana. No, not a basketball program, because Mike Woodson, sure, he retired. He got fired. Basketball's going the wrong way. It just is, okay? Hoosiers football's here, and it's here to stay. Illinois is 3-0. We were high on Illinois a couple weeks ago when they played Duke in Durham. We thought all day Illinois was winning that football game. They have more talent than Duke. Oh, they did. They don't have more talent than Indiana, though. Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback. He is. Fernando Mendoza's better. He struggled in week 1 against ODU. Mendoza's been fully unleashed now. On the ground and in the air as well. Mendoza last week, and I get it, it's the Sycamores of Indiana State, who, by the way, are not a bad FCS school. Indiana beats them 73-0. Fernando Mendoza, 270 yards, throws 1 incompletion for 5 touchdowns. His brother, Alberto, 6 for 9 passing, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns as well. It put 73 points on Indiana State. Team's dominant, man. They're a dominant team. Illinois is good. They're not ready for this. Because Indiana's going to outscore them. And I think the Indiana defense that has been really good all year long will see a lot of success against Illinois. Illinois has not faced a team like the Hoosiers yet this year. You beat Western Illinois. You beat Duke. You beat West Michigan. That's awesome. Welcome to Bloomington. The Indiana Hoosiers will dominate the Illinois Fighting Illini this week. Officially, Indiana puts everybody on notice. Remember last year when Indiana, when they were undefeated, they got game day, but they weren't being treated all so seriously yet. And they beat Nebraska 56-7. They had beat Washington at home. They go to Michigan State and blow them out. Then they beat Michigan at home. This is the start of the run, guys. It's the start of the run. We'll get to the game in Oregon in a little bit. Okay. I don't want to make my crazy take like I said last year about how they were going to go into Ohio State and win. And I did believe it. I did. I'm going to hold back on saying they're going to go to Eugene and win for now. Okay. I'm going to hold back. If they're undefeated, though, going into that game against undefeated Oregon, I will be tempted to go all the way to Eugene for that game, but we'll hold on to that. I'm taking the Indiana Hoosiers, though, to win this week and cover against the Illinois Fighting Illini. They've got too much talent. Fernando Mendoza, again, has been fully unlocked as a starting quarterback here with Indiana, and dude's legit, okay? Top 5 quarterback in college football. The offense around him looks great. Cignetti's building a program here, and Indiana's on the definite right track. So give me Indiana to win and cover 4.5 points at home. Get them in the top 10 immediately, because that's where they deserve to be. They're a top 10. They're a top 10 school right now. They are, and a top 10 team. Next up, we go to whatever this is. Vanderbilt's hosting Georgia State. So it's a classic, and this is what Chris Cignetti's talking about, right? And that's why he said, all right, I'm not gonna play Louisville anymore. I'm not going to play difficult games in non-con anymore. I'm going to go play Indiana State. I'm going to go play Old Dominion. I'm going to go play, Kennesaw State. Because this is what the SEC does all the time. Sure, Vandy went to VTech, and I'm sure, Cignetti's going to keep scheduling Group of 5 teams, which that's fair. Get you 3 free wins every single season. Vanderbilt gets Georgia State. Well, no, to Cignetti's defense, he only gets 3 non-cons. The SEC gets 4. And Vandy's, other than VTech, were Charleston Southern, Georgia State, and Utah State. Same exact thing Cignetti's doing. His other tough opponent, instead of being Virginia Tech, is another Big Ten school. Anyways, Vanderbilt's at home against Georgia State. How many points will they score? They'll get in the 40s. They will. The Georgia State Panthers are 1-2. Were too competitive last week with Murray State. I know they're winning for the entirety of that game. They're up 30-7 at one point. The fact that Murray State's still scoring 21 points on you is a little bit concerning. TJ Finley's starting for Georgia State now, which is cool. Bro overcame the long course that he had to take, or the obstacles he had to face to rejoin a collegiate football program. And those obstacles I'm talking about is stealing a truck. Yep, TJ Finley, who's always been one hell of a talent, 6'7" quarterback. Always thought highly of him as a talent at Texas State. He stole a truck, and I thought he was done in college football, but he found a way back. So good on him, I guess. He hasn't been the best at Georgia State so far, I'll say that. Against Murray State, he goes 11 for 18 passing for a touchdown and 2 interceptions. You're a quarterback that's played at the highest level already, right? You've played at Auburn. You were recruited to go to Louisiana State. You played in your freshman season. And you're not blowing out Murray State, and you're struggling against Murray State, Vanderbilt's defense will have something for TJ Finley and Georgia State. They will shut them down. Diego Pavia? Well, Diego Pavia, will he put up the craziest stats? No. What Diego Pavia does, though, he just wins. He's like a college Jimmy Garoppolo. He just finds ways to win games. He can run unlike Garoppolo, but he's gonna take off. He's gonna put his team in a position to win. Gotta give the guy credit. Gets his last season, gets another season, and he just wins football games. Dude makes the right throws when needed. He is going to always have a high completion rate. His completion percentage right now is 74%. Because again, Diego Pavia makes the best out of every opportunity that he is given. So I feel very confident in Vanderbilt winning this football game. Obviously, they're at home against Georgia State. TJ Finley, there's so many off-the-field issues, and I guess that's solved for now. But as he's gotten back on the field, TJ Finley hasn't been what at least I expected TJ Finley to be last year at Western Kentucky. I expected TJ Finley to be great last year at WKU. He wasn't that, obviously, right? Lost his job to Caden Vetkamp. So I'm going here with the Vandy Commodores to cover the 25.5 points, and I do believe they're going to win the football game, obviously, with that. Diego Pavia does nothing but win. Vanderbilt has a tough SEC schedule coming up after they play Utah State, even though I think Utah State's going to give them some troubles. Don't get me wrong, shout out Bryson Barnes. Vandy's getting ready for their game against Alabama, obviously, on October 4th. They're going to try to do it on back-to-back seasons. We'll see, But for now, give me Vanderbilt to beat TJ Finley and Georgia State. I think they will cover, and I think they will win by more than 4 scores. It's going to be Vanderbilt. Georgia State probably won't score more than 14. Vandy will get in the 40s, and it'll be an easy cover for Vanderbilt. This isn't one of my favorite plays of the week, but it's pretty automatic at the same time, right? I don't love playing 27.5 point spreads because there's no reason to, right? There's absolutely no reason to play that. When you get games like Indiana, right? Next up, we go to the Apple Cup. Now, this is a line that I don't mind playing at all. On CBS from Pullman, Washington, the Washington State Cougars are 20.5 point underdogs at home against the Washington Huskies. Sign me up for the 20.5 points. I will take the points, okay? I will happily take the 20.5 points Wazoo's getting this week. I will. Last year, Wazoo walks into Seattle and beats Washington at Lumen, not at American Airlines Field or whatnot. They go to Lumen and they beat Washington. And I get it. That was Will Rogers versus John Maytier. But Maytier does enough to win the football game Maytier plays. Maytier played the game of his life. No, he played really well against San Jose State the week after. Maytier plays really well and they win the game, does Wazoo, right? It's the first time Wazoo has gotten the Apple Cup in Pullman in a very long time, since 22. When Cam Ward was there was the last time this game was in Pullman, because they had to go back-to-back years at Seattle. They played one, obviously, at Lumen, and they played 2 years ago over at Alaskan Airlines Field. So it's been a minute since Wazoo has gotten this game at home, and they're going to make the best of it. I know Wazoo just got blown out last week against North Texas, but I said this very early in the video, and I'm going to say it now. It's something about this type of rivalry, not Oregon State-Oregon, because those rosters are so far apart. And I do believe Wazoo's pretty far apart from Washington in 2025 now, but they're not as far apart as Oregon and Oregon State are, because, right, Washington is just not on the level of Oregon is, right? Wazoo is what you'd expect out of the Pac-2 right now, right? Not getting the best talent. I will point out Wazoo's victory, though, over San Diego State, which gives me some hope this week for them. Will they win? Probably not. I doubt it. I doubt they're going to win back-to-back years in the Apple Cup. But Jackson Potter, in his last game that he played in Pullman, played really well. Potter went 28 for 42 passing, 3 touchdowns, and 257 yards. You're going to take that out of him, right? Potter is not going to be, a Gardner Minshew for Wazoo. They don't throw the ball nearly as enough anymore, obviously. But Potter he's only a sophomore. I think he can be a good college football quarterback eventually. Washington's 2-0. They beat Colorado State. They beat UC Davis. They will get ready to host the University of Ohio, Ohio State University next week. Feels like a trap. It does. And I know calling the Apple Cup a trap is kind of weird. You're kind of set on next week you're going to play Ohio State. That's your chance, right? If you feel disrespected if you're Washington right now, right? Didn't really blow out Colorado State like you would have liked to. We had Colorado State spread that game and it hit. You blow out UC Davis, but that's a Big Sky team. You want to be ranked, you got to beat Ohio State. But we got to play Wazoo next, a Wazoo team that doesn't even have the guy that beat us last year in John Maytier. So yeah, if you're UW, you're kind of underestimating them a little bit. But you're going on the road. A lot of these guys on this UW team have never been to Pullman. Pullman it's different. Guys, Pullman's basically Idaho. You know, there's two different sides of Washington that are completely different from each other. Pullman, Washington is nothing like Seattle. It does not feel like it's basically a different state. If Idaho inherited Pullman, Washington, it would just make sense. It's right on the border, all right? And it is Idaho. It looks like Idaho. There's not many people there. It's a bunch of nothing out there. It's a bunch of nature. It's a different vibe. It's hard to go on the road and play them, especially if you are UW and you're used to playing this team in Seattle like you have the last 2 seasons. I'm going with the Washington State Cougars here to cover. I'm not taking them to win, obviously, because that would just be malpractice. But 20.5 points, if we can get 21 or 21.5, ooh, I love it. I love it. I did not mean to. Okay, guys, Washington should be green for minus 1,600. I'm not saying at all that I'm picking Washington State. I know that plus 860s in green. It should be in red. I butchered the graphic. Okay, I did have to make 50 of these. So that's wrong. I'm taking Washington to win, but the play here for me, and you're probably going to see it later in the week as well, is Washington State plus 20.5, okay? It's a rivalry game. They're not that far off rosters-wise. Yes, Washington's the better team. What happened last time Wazoo played at home? They blew out San Diego State. The offense is capable, and I don't think, personally for me, I know Damon Williams is a great talent. Jonah Coleman's up there in the Heisman race. Don't think UW's as good as people say they are. I don't think their defense is as good as they're supposed to be either, all right? They're a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten school for me. I think Wazoo's going to cover. Obviously, yes, UW will probably win the game, but watch out for Wazoo, man. You know, they were dogs last year too, so we'll see. Next up, going on to an ACC matchup. Yes, this is a conference matchup. Stanford goes on the road to take on the Virginia Cavaliers. I'm taking Stanford here. So I got to go to Stanford's last game at home against Boston College. Our best bet did not hit. Boston College loses at Stanford. In a game that Boston College had, they were going to win that game and they were going to cover. They were up 17-6 at one point, and they were at the Stanford 4-yard line about to go up 24-6, where they fumbled. And they fumbled quite a bit. They turned the ball over 3 times, threw a pick 6, did Lonergan, and they fumbled at the goal line later in the game as well. Boston College basically tried their hardest to lose the game, and they did exactly that, right? They lost the football game because they tried everything in their power to do so. It is what it is. Going on the road and traveling is difficult in college football, especially in this new age. I get that. So I'm going to contradict myself right now and take Stanford to go to Virginia and cover. Their run game looked really good. And hey, Ben Gulbranson played a much better game. I know statistically you can see 13 for 22 passing, 186 yards. That's not a good straight up stat line. I get that. Watching him though, and watching every snap from him, he played much better. All right. A lot of those incompletions are, he's getting pressure. He's just got to get it off. He found Sam Roush, who is a very solid player for them. One of their best playmakers. He is their tight end. Had a big 69-yard touchdown in that game against Boston College. And Micah Ford officially, showed up. 75-yard touchdown for Micah Ford on 17 carries. He had 157 yards against Boston College, whose entire offense was literally Turbo Richard. Bad game for BC. Stanford now goes on the road to Virginia, a Virginia team that lost on the road to North Carolina State, a team that beat Coastal Carolina and beat William and Mary. You're supposed to do that, Losing at NC State, though, that's not great, right? They blow out William and Mary last week. They get all of the second-string guys and the third team in. That's great. I just feel like there's too many points for Stanford. They're not going to win. 16.5, though, I think now we're talking. I think we are. I think Virginia's the better team. They're not 17 points better than Stanford is. Especially, again, now Stanford, it's like the whole basketball expression, right? Like, you got to see one go through the net. Stanford's seen the win now. They've seen it go through. Now they just got to build upon that. Are they going to win at UVA? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt they go to Charlottesville and win this football game. But I do think they're able to play competitive football now. 16.5 points to me is just too many for Stanford. Again, Gulbranson, I'm still not high on the guy. I know he played a good game against Boston College. Maybe he just plays well in Palo Alto. I don't know. We need to see it on the road this week. First home game in the ACC for Virginia this season. We'll see how Stanford shows up, but I do think they're going to be competitive enough, and I believe they're going to cover 16.5 points. And Micah Ford looked really good on the ground, too. So give me Stanford for Virginia, right? Chandler Morris and company. Good squad, not good enough squad. You lost to NC State. I'm taking Stanford on the points here. Next up, one of my favorite bets of the week in Waco, Texas. The Baylor Bears host the Arizona State Sun Devils. Absolutely love this game for the Baylor Bears. I do, man. Um, I don't know why the line's only 2.5 points. I don't know why the money line's only minus 140. We are hammering Arizona State this week. That's what we're doing. We are full on taking Arizona State. Sorry, we're taking Baylor. My goodness, Baylor. I'm 3 hours into this. My apologies. We are hammering the Baylor Bears at home against Arizona State. ASU's not ready for this offense. They're not ready for a Baylor offense that will probably score almost every single time they touch the football. Guys, what Sawyer Robertson's doing in 2025 is insane. Heisman, potential. He's not going to win it, Carson Beck. But Sawyer Robertson will get Heisman votes this year. In 3 games, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Oh yeah, he got pulled at halftime, obviously, in the Samford game because they were winning by so much last week in Waco. The victory Baylor pulls off on the road in Dallas against Southern Methodist is insane. Robertson, 34 for 50 passing for 440 yards and 4 touchdowns. Plays as good of a game as you can ask for. Sawyer Robertson is a great college football quarterback. A guy who is playing his way onto he's going to be a late round, maybe a mid-round pick in the NFL draft if everything continues to go his way, which I'd imagine it will, playing in the Big 12. Arizona State's not ready to keep up, guys. They're not. They beat Texas State last week, and they are up big on Texas State. Brad Jackson and company weren't ready for prime time. It is what it is. They'll be back. Arizona State ran the ball up and down the field, right? Raleek Brown, Sam Levitt ran quite a bit, right? And obviously he was somewhat of a threat in the passing game too, getting the ball to Jordan Tyson. Good win for Arizona State, but you got to score almost every possession now against Baylor. Because I know, Arizona State's defense looked good against Texas State. It's a whole other thing against this offense from Baylor, man. The receivers Baylor's got. Against SMU, Josh Cameron, 9 catches, 151 yards. Ashton Hawkins, 10 catches, 145 yards. Sawyer Robertson, again, 440 total yards. That's such a tough team. SMU kept scoring, but Baylor kept responding. SMU goes up 10-0 in the first quarter. You're thinking, okay, they're going to kind of run away with this one at home. Nope. Baylor in their face the entire game. Baylor's down by 10 points with 5 minutes to go. They find a way to win. Sawyer Robertson keeps moving them downfield. They're down 14, with 5 minutes to go. They get their stop. Sawyer Robertson, huge touchdown passes. They score in overtime. SMU responds, second overtime. Baylor gets a stop. They kick a field goal to win the game. My goodness, man. And sure, they should have lost. SMU should have kicked a field goal at the end of regulation to win it, but that's neither here or there. Baylor's playing great football right now, and Arizona State right now, nope, they will not keep up. They beat Texas State, and that's good. That's a good Sun Belt squad. You're not ready for Baylor just yet. You're not. Sam Levitt's not playing as to the expectation that we thought he was going to be at, and in all fairness to him, he's a sophomore, man. He had a great freshman year, but everything for Sam Levitt was set up ultimately with Cam Scadaboo. There's no elite running back threat. There's good running backs, there's not elite running backs right now for Arizona State. Sawyer Robertson doesn't need a running back to set up for his success, though, because all that success that Sawyer Robertson creates, that's with his arm. And that's going to be enough for Baylor to win the football game. They're going to win and cover. Absolutely love the bet this week in Waco. Baylor's offense looks just amazing. Week 1 loss to Auburn sucks. They've bounced back in the perfect way. Baylor's a contender this year in the Big 12. Baylor Bears at home, minus 140 and minus 2.5. They will beat the Big 12 champs from last year in the Arizona State Sun Devils. Next up, we go to East Carolina, as we have got the Brigham Young Cougars going on the road to Greenville, North Carolina to take on the East Carolina Pirates. 6.5 point favorites are BYU on the road. I understand that line. I get it. Brigham Young's 2-0 this season with a 69-0 victory over Portland State, who may be the worst FCS school in the country. I don't know. Just a thought. They've barely scored all year long. They lost 42-0 to Tarleton State to start the season. But anyways, BYU with the dominant victory over Portland State, and then 2 weeks ago, they beat up on Stanford 27-3 in Provo. They now have to head on the road for the first time this season as, Bear Bachmer, right, gets his first road start in replacement, right, of Jake Retzlaff, who's now at Tulane. The BYU run game's been pretty good too, don't get me wrong, right? LJ Martin in that Stanford game had 18 carries for 110 yards, but right now they go on to take on ECU, who I don't know where to really put them at. Caden Hauser is a starting quarterback, right? Former Big Ten QB. I think quite highly of Caden Hauser. And I think this BYU defense will not be too difficult of a puzzle for him to solve. It's just how does the rest of the team step up here? I know Caden Hauser is going to sling it, and Caden Hauser has put nothing but tremendous numbers up for ECU. The Brigham Young defense, though, is going to give this team a lot of fits. Say what you want about Stanford. Say what you want about Stanford. Are they bad? They are. BYU holds them to 3 points. You know? Caden Hauser so far this year has hit essentially 300 yards in every single game. My problem with ECU is you go on the road week 1, you lose on Thursday night to NC State. Close game, loses by 7 points. Hauser throws for 366 yards. Week 2, you beat the Campbell Camels. Okay, Hodge Malik Williams is gone. You beat the Campbell Camels 56-3. And then you beat the lowly Coastal Carolina Chants last week by 38 points. But Coastal's the worst team in the Sun Belt right now. East Carolina out the American, though. My goodness. The American Conference. Ooh, it keeps on getting better. So now you get Brigham Young. And then you got a short week right after. You got to host Army on Thursday night on the 25th. But for now, you get Brigham Young. I don't know if the offense sees that same success because BYU's defense is just really good. And BYU at the same time, I'm not sold on the offense just yet, but I think they're going to be able to move the ball in East Carolina. East Carolina has not been tested yet this year. The push BYU gets off the ball, and that's where they're going to win this game, in my opinion. It's in the trenches. It's going to be that front line. It's going to be the offensive line and the defensive line that wins it for Brigham Young. I think they're going to be able to create pressure on Caden Hauser. I think they're going to be able to make it difficult for him, obviously, dealing with that defensive backfield. I look at what BYU is able to do in their push on the run in the run game. I mean, that's why they were so successful against Stanford, right? LJ Martin runs the ball up and down the field against Stanford, and if it matters, he runs the ball up and down the field against Portland State, the Vikings, too. That's going to make a big difference this week against East Carolina, a team that I know can throw the ball, but what happens now when you get stuck in a battle of the trenches and your defense is getting worn out? Here comes 6 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, and it's just continuously, big play, 6-yard carry. It's just, you get what I mean, right? Chunk play, and eventually that, chunk's not the right word for that, but eventually now you're in a 15-play drive, and okay, now we've gone, BYU's gone 70 yards, now they're down to the 10-yard line. And they've, here comes Bear Bachmer, who's hit for a 10-yard completion to his brother Tiger Bachmer, right? I know Tiger's not really that involved in the passing game right now. But you get what I mean, right? It's a difficult game for East Carolina. Because I don't think BYU is going to let them play the game that they want to, which is, let's sling it the entire game. Let's get the ball back in Caden Hauser's hands. BYU is going to take the ball out of Hauser's hands, and they're going to make him sit for a while. And Brigham Young, I think, eventually is just going to wear out this defense. And I think the Brigham Young defense will see a lot of success against ECU at the same exact time. It's a difficult matchup for East Carolina. I know they're at home, so that's going to benefit them a little bit. But as a whole, yes, I'm going to go with Brigham Young to go on the road and beat East Carolina. They are 6.5-point favorites, and I believe they will cover that line as well. Give me the Cougs from Provo. All right, next up, we move to the final game here of the 4:30 window, and there's more coming up at 5. But anyways, 4:30 last game, Southern Miss versus La Tech. If you were here on the channel last year, it's something that we loved doing, and that was betting against Louisiana Tech. They were actually banned for us. And I know they eventually won 5 games and found themselves in a bowl game at 5-7. But La Tech this year is 2-1. I've gone against my La Tech bias, just how much I hated that team because they screwed us on a Wednesday night once upon a time last year. La Tech is 2-1 this year. One loss to Louisiana State, where they only lost by 16 points. And then a win last week at home and a blowout victory against New Mexico State. They're taking on Southern Miss this week. The Golden Eagles, obviously, this is just the Marshall Thundering Herd disguised as Southern Miss this season. They are 2-1 with a loss, a competitive loss at home to Mississippi State in week 1, a win over Jackson State in week 2, and last week a victory over App State by 16 points. Southern Miss, to me, right, I talked about the elite tier, in my opinion, of the Sun Belt. Says a couple times today, but it's Old Dominion, James Madison, Southern Miss, Texas State, and South Alabama. Those are the 5 best teams to me in the Sun Belt. Arkansas State, probably in there too, so there's 6. I couldn't even tell you who's good in the CUSA. I can't. Not because I don't know. Well, not because I don't know the CUSA, just because it's a cluster, man. It's like shooting darts at this point. I don't know who the best team in the CUSA is. If I had to right now pick a winner of the Conference USA, it's still Western Kentucky. But I cannot confidently tell you that they're going to win it. Anyways, La Tech is hosting Southern Miss this week. I believe Southern Miss is going to go on the road and beat them. I think they're going to. La Tech's not that good. New Mexico State's just that bad, in my opinion. I know New Mexico State, oh, they're 2-1. They got Logan Fife. They could barely score against Bryant, and they beat Tulsa by 7 points. Tulsa's not good. That relates to the very beginning of the video. OK State should blow Tulsa out this week, okay? So I think everything's going to figure itself out. La Tech doesn't throw the ball that well. They have Blake Baker as their starting quarterback. He's more of a runner. He ran for 100 yards last week. He's a 6'5 sophomore out of Cypress, Texas. He ran for 103 yards last week against New Mexico State. Doesn't really throw the ball all that much and doesn't throw it all that well. He's just a pure runner who they're going to look to get the ball to. And obviously, it's like JV high school football. Put your best athlete at quarterback. And essentially, that's what they've done with Blake, not entirely, with Blake Baker. But, I mean, he is a good athlete, right? He's a guy who can run. He can sling it, though. Don't get me wrong. He can. He's capable of doing so. Had a passing touchdown against Louisiana State, the only touchdown that La Tech scored over there. Southern Miss, though, to me, is just such an experienced bunch. It is. It's a group of guys who have played together a lot. I mean, most of this team played together last year at Marshall. They're, hell, Elijah Metcalf, the leading receiver last year, Marshall guy, right? Braylon Braxton, Marshall guy last year. All of these dudes have played with each other before pause, but they're used to one another. They are. And you add in a couple other transfers and the NIL money that Southern Miss gets. They spent big and they took an entire team away from Marshall and just added it to the Sun Belt. Or they took another one of the Sun Belt teams and redisguised it as Southern Miss this season. I respect the hustle in this day and age of college football. Braylon Braxton, I thought to end last season was going to go to the Power Four. I thought so. I thought there was going to be a role for him somewhere. Initially, before Indiana got Mendoza, I was thinking, low-key, that Braylon Braxton might have been their guy. Because Braylon Braxton was so good last year for Marshall. Former Tulsa quarterback, but last year in Marshall, he was injured some, but 19 touchdowns and 2 picks. 600 yards on the ground. Braylon Braxton's really good, and Southern Miss should be in a position to be fairly good in the Sun Belt this season. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of good teams in the Fun Belt this year. None of them will go undefeated, and none of them will make the playoffs, because that's reserved for the American Conference this year. I mean, pretty much. They have the only undefeated squads at this point. But the Sun Belt's got some squads. They do. And Braylon Braxton's a good quarterback, and I think Southern Miss goes on the road here and beats La Tech. I don't think people have picked up on how good Southern Miss is just yet. Yeah, they played Jack State kind of close. Okay, they won the game by 18 points. They've played only at home so far. I'm not sold on La Tech. If Southern Miss can stop the run game, they should win this game because I trust in what they have offensively. They had a pick six last week. They had one of their I think it was one of their DNs had 3 sacks as well against App State. Not a bad team, man. A team that should be able to pressure what's going on here for La Tech, and I'm not sold. I cannot be sold on Louisiana Tech just yet. I'm going Southern Miss. I firmly believe in them in the Sun Belt. Obviously, a non-con game with La Tech being in the CUSA, but I like Southern Miss quite a lot here. I think they're going to go to Ruston, Louisiana, and beat the La Tech Bulldogs. We move on now to the 5 o'clock games. There's actually only one of them that we're going to talk about today, but here it is. Sam Houston on the road against Texas. I'm taking Sam Houston. Not to win, obviously. You can't even get a line for Sam Houston to win. I'm taking them to cover 41.5. If we get 42, we're firing. Okay? So what I mean by that is, right, video purposes, I'm taking 41. If we get 42, I'm betting it myself. Okay? I don't care Sam Houston's 0-3. I don't give a damn. Texas can't score, right? Arch Manning, hell of a talent. Is he generational, though? I think he can be. As a sophomore, though, he's not yet. He's still young. Arch is... I like Arch. That UTEP game was so horrendous, man. Malachi Nelson versus Arch Manning last week was brutal. It was a game that 3 years ago would have been legit. They both did not play well. Arch goes 11 for 25 passing for 114 yards and a touchdown and a pick. Malachi Nelson goes 24 for 36 with 209 yards and 2 picks as well. Texas wins the game, and yes, are they always in control of the game? 100%, right? Arch is the rushing touchdown to start it. Another rushing touchdown in the second quarter. They go up 14-3, and they're in control of the game. But, I mean, what happened to my plus 42 for UTEP? Come on now. We saw it all the way. I'm telling you, I don't think Texas is that great. They're a good football team as a whole, but their offense is holding them back right now. So shout out to the UTEP Miners, like the Diggin' Miners, or the Cave Miners, not... shout out to the Miners for coming through. I think Sam Houston's going to come through. I think the Bearcats are going to come through this week at Texas. All right? 3 straight outs for Sam Houston. Sucks. You lose at Western Kentucky. You lose to UNLV. You lose to Hawaii. But now you're given 41 points? And I hope I'd buy a half a point here. Or you're giving 42 points with Sam Houston? on a backup quarterback, sign me up. I don't know what Hunter Watson's status is. Doesn't matter to me because, guys, we don't really think Sam Houston's going to score, okay? We don't think they're going to score at all. This is primarily here. This bet is, can they hold Texas to less than 6 touchdowns? The answer is yes. Texas is not scoring 6 times. They're going to score 5 times. Texas is going to score 35 points. No, actually, I'll give Sam Houston a field goal. Final score, 35-3 Texas. They won't score more than 5 times. Asking 6 touchdowns out of this team is a lot. It is. And even if they do score 6 touchdowns, if you buy a half a point like we're intending on doing, you got to score more than 6 touchdowns to beat us. Sam Houston, we can take that away with 1 field goal, right? UTEP kicks a field goal in the first quarter last week. Sam Houston kicks a field goal in the first quarter this week. Now you need 7 touchdowns to win, to cover the spread. To me, it's just too many points. It's by far too many points for a team that only scored 27 last week against UTEP, a team that scored 38 against San Jose State, but did not cover the 35.5 points that they had, and lost in week 1 and only scored 7 points against Ohio State, right? Arch Manning can be good. I'm concerned right now for Texas. They will go into the bye week after this week, where they can prepare for Florida, which is a game that they should win. But the game that gets concerning, October 11th. Circle it. Get ready for it. The Red River game, Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma, Texas. I'm telling you right now, unless something changes, Oklahoma's winning that game. Oklahoma's a plus 230 dog right now. You can bet on that right now. Oh my goodness, I need to make a segment for that. Because Oklahoma right now, I think, is going to beat the crap out of Texas. Plus 230 is ridiculous. They're 9.5 point dogs against Texas. Are we serious? More on that in a couple weeks. For now, Sam Houston plus 41.5 points on the road in Austin against the Longhorns. On now to the 6 o'clock hour. 1 game at 6 o'clock exactly, as UL Monroe goes on the road to take on the UTEP Miners in El Paso at the Sun Bowl. Going UTEP. Going UTEP at home here. I think it's a good spot for them. I think it is. Right, UTEP 1-2 this season, but they haven't gotten to play a home game against an FBS school. Malachi Nelson in his 1 home game for the Miners was pretty good, right? 14 for 26 passing, 4 touchdowns, does everything they need him to do against the UT Martin Skyhawks. Now he's at home again, and he's taken on UL Monroe, a team that just got blown out 73-0 2 weeks ago against Alabama. Is that expected? 100%. UL Monroe has taken pride in playing these really good SEC schools, as last year they were one of Arch Manning's starts. With Quinn Ewers' injury, Manning got to start against Mississippi State, but also UL Monroe prior to that. So UL Monroe takes pride in taking beatings from better schools. I'm not telling you this is going to be a beating this week, but guys, UTEP only lost by 17 points to Texas. Now, Malachi Nelson did not play well. I'd argue he might have outplayed Arch. Nah, he didn't. He still did not outplay Arch because Arch ran the football. UTEP isn't as bad. Their defense looked all right. I get it. Texas's offense is horrible right now, but what does UL Monroe have to offer offensively? I don't know. You know, Aiden Armetta is back. Braylon McReynolds. Aiden Armetta last week or 2 weeks ago against Alabama. I get it's against Bama. He threw for 28 passing yards. Even in their victory against St. Francis, threw for 95 passing yards in week number 1. And McReynolds, who is their lead back, had 113 rushing yards in that game. Well, he had 24 against Bama. My point being here is Alabama or not, compare that against the St. Francis PA game, they're just not a good offense. Not at all. Is UTEP? The jury's out. Jury's definitely still out for that one. We will see what Malachi Nelson's going to be in a very winnable spot against an FBS school because he's yet to win against an FBS team. But at least Malachi's got some legit weapons. I think Kenny Odom is very capable. By far the leading receiver for UTEP. He's got 19 catches. That's 10 more than the second place guy. Former Austin PA talent, Kenny Odom. Odom's been good, right? Last week against Texas, not great, but the UT Martin game, 124 yards. Utah State game, 97 yards. I believe Malachi Nelson has all the potential to still be efficient in the CUSA this season. Will UTEP win the conference? No. Will they go to a bowl game? They should. They should still be, in my opinion, upper half of the CUSA. They should beat Liberty. And they should have a chance to beat La Tech. They should beat Kennesaw. They should beat Missouri State. They should beat New Mexico State. There are your wins. That'll be 7 wins if they can get that, plus the UL Monroe victory today. I get it. This is a non-con because UL Monroe's in the Sun Belt. But they should put Malachi Nelson in a position in his sophomore season to go bowling And if I'm Malachi, I'm staying at UTEP for my junior season, and then I'm transferring out for my senior year. Hopefully it goes better for him than like Zach Calzada, who came back to Kentucky, who I know he's injured right now, but I don't know what's going on with the Wildcats. Is he starting going forward? Who knows? I did not play last week. But I think Malachi Nelson and UTEP are going to win this football game. They're better than UL Monroe. UL Monroe's offense is horrible. Not to say UTEP's is much better, but I think they are going to be able to effectively score the football. And 4.5 points just is not enough. I actually really like this line. This might be a best bet. 4.5 points at home against a team that can't score and can't throw the ball. Guys, UTEP could easily win this game, in my opinion, 35-10, if that. Maybe lower scoring, 24-3. That's the type of score I can see this week. I think UTEP dominates the football game. They're at home. It's gonna be a tough game for UL Monroe. I like the UTEP Miners quite a bit here. Emphasize that. I like the Texas El Paso Miners football team to win. Okay, just so it doesn't get taken out of context. Okay, next game, UTSA on the road at Colorado State to take on the Colorado State Rams. Interesting spot. UTSA is a 4.5 point favorite on the road. Initially, I saw the line and I was wanting to go Colorado State, but as I've dug in deeper, is that the right word? As I've looked more into this one, I have to go UTSA. How is Colorado State going to keep up? We took Colorado State in week 1 against UW because I didn't mind their offense, but I just thought it was too many points. I thought Colorado State was still capable to score 20 points, which, again, I would expect the Rams to do that every single week. But when the line's only 4.5 and you only scored 20 points, let's say, then UTSA's only got to score 28 and they're going to win. They're going to cover. And this is a Roadrunners team that will score every single week. That's just what they do. They air it out. They throw it all game long. Well, no, not really. They air it out. When they take shots, they take shots. And Robert Henry is a very good running back. Robert Henry this season for UTSA, 47 carries for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has gotten 2 touchdowns in every single start that he's had so far this year. 177 yards against A&M, 160 yards against Texas State, 150 yards against Incarnate Word. My goodness. And he has a 75-yard rushing touchdown in every one of those games. Yeah, get ready for this, Colorado State. Get ready for this. And at the same time, you're dealing with this, and here comes Owen McCown taking a deep shot downfield. They're dangerous after a touchback because here comes a 75-yard touchdown. It's just what they do, you know? Watch out for this team. And here comes Owen McCown, lone one up to AJ Wilson, 77-yard touchdown. It's just what the Roadrunners do. They would just outrun you this entire game. No pun intended. Colorado State can't keep up with this. I think Fowler Nicolosi is a good game manager for the Mountain West. He's without, obviously, Horton, who was his lead guy last year, is in the NFL now, obviously, with the, Denver Broncos. Yes, right? Torrey Horton's with the Seahawks, excuse me. I don't know why I got him and Troy Franklin mixed up for a second. Very different players. Franklin, obviously, Oregon with Bo Nix, who they threw to a lot yesterday at Lucas Oil. Screwed all of the Cortland Sutton fantasy owners over. Anyways, Fowler Nicolosi without Torrey Horton. Isaiah Horton's a Miami guy. Without Torrey Horton, Armani Winfield, your top receiver, he just feels like a game manager to me now. I don't know. I watched the Northern Colorado game. That is not a good performance out of Colorado State. They win it 21-17. Watch that game, and my goodness, they are in trouble. They're losing the entire game. You're down in the fourth quarter. Your final drive, you work down the field. Nicolosi gets that 13-yard rushing touchdown to win the game. You should not be in that big of a dogfight with the Northern Colorado Bears. The only thing I can say about Northern Colorado is that Justin Gagey wrestled here. You know, it's just, I don't think they're a bad team for the Big Sky in all fairness, but you're Colorado State. And now, okay, you're struggling to score. UTSA is not going to play great defense. It's not what they bring, right? Teams will score against UTSA. Texas State scored 43 points against them. A&M scored 42. Hell, Incarnate Word scored 20 points. Same time, though, you have to deal with Robert Henry, who might be the best back right now in the CUSA, or in the American, excuse me. Not even, fairly clearly the best running back in the American League, in the American Conference right now. Owen McCown's going to take his shots downfield. It's a tough offense to deal with. Keep saying, man, the American Conference has so much talent this season. UTSA is going to get lost in the shuffle, but they have a guy who's averaging 156 yards a game. What? Against A&M and Texas State. Ooh, my goodness. Yeah, UTSA is going to boat race Colorado State out the building, okay? Game will not be competitive. UTSA is going to put it on them, and they will run away with this contest. Next up, the other game in Colorado. Let's go to Boulder. The Colorado Buffaloes host the Wyoming Cowboys. 13.5 points for Colorado. Went back and forth in this one. I decided I will go Colorado, though. I really had to think about this, especially because of how Wyoming played in the first half last week against Utah. I was surprised. I was really surprised that they played against Utah. I think really high of Devin Dampier in Utah, and that game's 3-0 going into halftime. Eventually, right, Dampier and Utah take over the game, and they win it 31-6. Wyoming's defense is really solid, though. I mean, that has to be treated, that has to be looked at a high regard, in my opinion. The fact that you hold that offense to 3 points through the first 2 quarters. That's impressive. Parlay that with the fact how Wyoming plays Akron in week number 1. You go to Akron, Ohio, you give up 0 points against Ben Finley and the guys. Northern Iowa game, that's a good FCS school. It's always been a good FCS program. Kurt Warner played back in the day. I think they were D2 back then, but still. You hold Northern Iowa to 7 points? You'll take that. Offense leaves some to be desired. Caden Anderson, I still think is very green watching Caden Anderson play. He's still very young. I think he needs just more time. That's the simplest way I can put it. Started some games last year for Wyoming. If he continues to be their guy here, over time, he's only going to improve. Wyoming, I like what they're building. Are they good enough to be competitive in the Mountain West season? Probably not. But I like what they're building. I think they got an all-around nice core. Their defense is good. But now you got to go to Folsom. You got to go to Boulder. And I don't know who the starting quarterback is. I don't know. Nobody knows who the starting quarterback is. I mean, can you predict Prime? I think it's going to be Caden Salter. I think it's going to be. But maybe it's not. Last week against Houston, we were wrong on Colorado going in there and winning. I bought, too much into the fact of how Colorado has started Big 12 play or even started Pac-12 play in years past. Actually, they started pretty bad in Pac-12 play 2 years ago. But when they went and beat TCU 2 years ago, and when Colorado's been faced with a big opponent on the road, they usually win, right? Texas Christian to start years. Texas Christian 2 years ago. Last year when they went on the road and beat Central Florida and dominated them, I thought we were going to see the same with Colorado going to Houston and winning. Didn't go our way, right? It's fine. Connor Wagman's good. He is. Ryan Staub did not play a good football game. That offense was horrible. And Prime said it himself. First thing he says when he gets to that press conference, Staub did not play a good game. Staub did not play his best football. But Prime stuck with him the entire football game. So to me, Juju Lewis is not starting a game this season. They're going to redshirt Juju, and he will have 4 more years of collegiate football after the season. That's fine. It's down to Staub and Caden Salter. I think you got to go Salter, but maybe they go Staub again. And this is a position where you're playing Wyoming. You're probably going to win, but you can't take this one for granted because this team does have a good defense. They're not going to burn you offensively, though, so you're probably going to get a lot of opportunity. And, if you're not scoring it, I don't think Wyoming's going to score back at you, even though Colorado's defense, not great, even though, don't forget, there were some calls last week that did not go Colorado's way. Oh, my goodness. The calls Houston got in that first quarter, unbelievable stuff. Okay, I'm not telling you Colorado wins the game if they get 2 calls in the first quarter in terms of spots and whatnot and reversals of calls. It's ridiculous. But there was some bad officiating early in that football game that I did not understand, that I'm surprised Prime did not blow a gasket over. Anyways, you're going to get an opportunity to get both Staub and Salter in the game. And Lewis, if you want, I think they're going to play both. I think they're going to start Staub, though. I think they're going to. There's a reason they kept him in the entire game, and I think Prime likes Staub a lot. There's a reason he did the post-game interview after the Delaware game and called him Martin Luther Staub. They like him quite a bit. I don't know how much he likes Caden Salter. I just don't know. He's a big portal guy, but Salter's never really wowed me. He tried to hit the portal in 24, and 23 nobody wanted him after the 23 season, and now he got another shot, and Colorado took him. There's a reason the interest was never high on Caden Salter. Never really passed the Power 4 eye test. He's got NFL hopes. I don't know if he's going to get there. I'm thinking more UFL Canada League for Caden Salter, but, jury's still out. They'll beat Wyoming. They'll cover 13.5, I think. I believe this game's going to be all up to Colorado, just trying to find what they have for the rest of the season. And who is our starting quarterback? Because after this, it's your last non-con game. Now it gets serious, and now you got to start playing Big 12 football every single week. You got BYU at home. Then you got to go to Texas Christian. Then you get Iowa State. I mean, there are some big-time games coming up after that. So you got to win this game and go 2-2, and you got to establish and find who your starting quarterback is. I think it's going to be Ryan Staub. But I would not be surprised if it's Salter as well. Again, we will figure that out this week. I think both are going to play. I think Salter might outplay him, but if they play equally as well, I think they're going to go Staub. So I think they're going to go Staub. Staub's still young. He's a sophomore. He's been here through the Dion and Shador era. I think Staub's going to win the starting job this week. Again, I would probably start Salter, but not against Staub as well. He just needs to play better. And honestly, for Staub too, just needs more experience. And to his defense, Salter's played a lot of college football and still looked like that against Delaware and Georgia Tech. Staub's barely played. He sat for Shador. I think he played the Utah game, was it, in 23? Other than that, he's barely played. I'll give him credit for showing up and doing his thing. Was not good last week at Houston. He'll be much better back at home at Folsom, at Boulder. I'm taking Colorado to win and cover against a good Wyoming defense. Next up, we move to Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, California, as we've got the Cal Bears going on the road to take on the San Diego State Aztecs. Cal by 1 million. I don't want to fully buy into California right now. I'm not going to yet. I'm not going to fully buy into the Cal woke agenda. Again, that is nothing but satire, obviously. The football woke agenda is what I'm getting at here. They're playing good ball. They're playing really good ball. Last week, they beat Minnesota. Shout out to Teron Kiwe Sagapulete. Dude keeps on balling. True freshman. Ooh, he's having a year. Last week against Minnesota, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Big Ten zone. Sagapulete has done nothing but impress so far. We're talking about the Sean Alexander, the best freshman award. I might go to Sagapulete right now. He's playing great football. Back-to-back road games now is a test. You get a manageable road game right now against San Diego State, a game that should get you accustomed to playing on the road, again, like the Oregon State victory. And then you got to go cross-country to Boston College. That's going to be a test. Yeah, I know BC just lost to Stanford, but going all the way to Boston is not an easy accomplishment. Not because, BC's so great, Matt Ryan's not there anymore. It's just, you got to go cross-country. That's a 6-hour flight, and that's a 5-hour flight, and that's going to be difficult. They will destroy San Diego State this week. SDSU's not ready for prime time. Week 1, they blow out Stony Brook. It's Stony Brook. And then 2 weeks ago, they go to Pullman, they go to Wazoo, and they get blown out. Offense looked horrible in that game. They looked a little bit better in the fourth quarter once the game was already over, right? Or the third quarter, I guess. But San Diego State could not move the ball for the most part. Jaden Denegal did not look good. He went 50% completion rate, 15 for 30 passing-wise. Lucky Sutton, their running back, had some opportunities. But as a whole, they get dominated. They get straight dominated by Wazoo. They score in their first drive. They don't score again for the rest of the game until the third quarter. And, touchdown, that doesn't really matter at that point. They're down by 30. California's going to walk into San Diego and dominate this team. I'm kind of sold right now. You lose your 2 running backs from last year. You lose Thomas. You lose Jaden Ott. Jaden Ott, it's got 3 carries all year long at Oklahoma. He should have stayed here. Kendrick Raphael, he's not. I don't know. Jaden Ott wasn't very good last year. Raphael's been okay. They couldn't really run the ball this week against Minnesota, but that's fine because, okay, here comes Teron Kiwe Sagapulete. He's been very efficient this season, man. He's been very good. The Jacob DeJesus get was pretty impressive, too. The 5'7" receiver out of Manteca, California. I know he's not the number 1 receiver here because that would be... no, it's probably Jacob DeJesus. I would say maybe it's Grizzle, but no. Just because, Grizzle's 6'4". But DeJesus, put him in the slot, let him run. That's a good get. I'm really impressed with Cal right now. I like the pass game. Run game could be improved on, obviously, but you still got a lot of season ahead. You're 3-0, and now you're going to San Diego State as a 12.5-point favorite. They should easily win this football game. Easily, California should go into San Diego and dominate this game, and that's exactly what they're going to do. I'm buying into this team right now. All right, give me Cal to go on the road to win it. Go on the road and win at SDSU. 12.5-point favorites. They should do it. SDSU does nothing good offensively right now. Lose Danny O'Neal to Wisconsin. Team hasn't been great this season. I'm not saying that's because of Danny O'Neal. It's just SDSU. You blow out Stony Brook, and then you lose and get blown out by Wazoo. You're probably going to get blown out even worse by California, even though you're at home. Give me Cal to go on the road and blow out SDSU at Snapdragon Stadium. Next up, 8 o'clock game. Late one. Southern California in LA at the Coliseum. Michigan State goes on the road to play the newly ranked number 25 team in the country, the USC Trojans. I'm hesitantly taking Michigan State to cover. Part of that mindset to me is you have to play better after last week. What the hell was that? You win 41-24 against Youngstown State. That was a game where the reserves were supposed to get in. I mean, that's what last week was supposed to be. Everyone was supposed to get in that game, and yet Michigan State found a way to be very competitive with the Youngstown State Penguins, and I can't really pin it on Aiden Childs. I know he threw a pick, but it's the defense. Guys, Youngstown just kept scoring. Youngstown scored in every single quarter of this game. And if it's not for a end-of-the-game touchdown, rushing touchdown by Tolliver, it's a 10-point win for Michigan State against Youngstown. Oh. Guys, I think Aiden Childs actually played pretty well last 2 weeks. I went after Aiden Childs quite a bit last year. Didn't think he played all that well. Week 1 wasn't his best week against Western Michigan. Aiden Childs played well enough against Boston College. I'll say it, well enough. Still, there's things they can work on in terms of, pass accuracy and whatnot. He threw 4 touchdowns against Boston College. You can't complain. Ran for 40 yards. That's fine. I don't think he played that poorly last week. I think the entire defense played poorly. Because to Michigan State's defense, they scored quite a bit. You scored 41 points. Ideally, that should be enough to win the game. And for Michigan State, too, all right, back-to-back weeks, you've scored 40+. You are undefeated. You're 3-0, but you're looked at as a bad 3-0. You beat West Michigan by 17 points. You beat Boston College by 2 points, who, oh, by the way, then went to Stanford and got blown out, essentially. 10 points, but still. A team that did not play well at Stanford. And then you keep the Youngstown State Penguins in a football game with you in East Lansing. Troubling. Oh, it's troubling. And now you take on USC. I do think Michigan State covers. Again, I just don't think they can play that poorly again. I think the offense, if anything, should be able to keep up. Yes, USC's got a good defense. They've got an explosive offense and a great offense. They haven't beaten anybody all that impressive yet. Yeah, you beat Purdue. Whatever. You beat Georgia Southern, and you beat Missouri State. Okay, you go on the road and beat Purdue. Great victory. You got to go to West Lafayette and win that football game. If you want to be competitive, if you want to be good in 2025, right, that's what you need to do. And I do like what USC has. I think Jaden Maivia is playing great football right now. All right, I think I like the two-headed monster of Wayman Jordan and the former New Mexico Lobo, Eli Sanders at running back. I like that. I like that a lot. Their receiving core is great, too, obviously. It's USC, obviously. Didn't cover this line last week against Purdue, though. Oh, they did barely by a half a point. I mean, I gotta think Michigan State plays better against USC than Purdue does. I know the game was in West Lafayette. Here's my thing. USC's not gonna lose to Michigan State. I'll be shocked if Sparty goes into USC and beats this football team. It will be one of the bigger upsets of the week. Might be the biggest upset of the week if they go in there and win that football game. But what I do think Michigan State do is what they can do is just keep up. If Aiden Childs continues to play like he has, and Nick Marsh is getting the ball, Jack Velling, their tight end's getting the football. Krishawn McCray from Kent State's been kind of a non-factor this season. But if Marsh and Velling are getting the football, and Aiden Childs is running like he did last week, 8 carries, 76 yards, Michigan State will be able to keep up. I'm not saying they're going to score 40 this week in the Coliseum, but if they score, if they score 28, I know USC's got an explosive offense. That's going to be a lot for them to cover with 40. You're asking for 7 touchdowns? If Michigan State gets in the 30s, which I think they can, I get USC's defense is good, but in all fairness, USC has not seen an offense like Michigan State yet. Michigan State's offense can be really bad, but the last 2 weeks, they've done nothing to prove to me that they are really bad. You know what I mean? Week 1 against West Michigan was horrible. They couldn't punch it in. They couldn't get away from them, and they couldn't get away from Youngstown State either. And obviously, Boston College took them to double overtime. But the offense at least scored in those games. USC's offense has scored 73 points against Missouri State, 59 against Georgia Southern, 33 against Purdue. They have not faced the offense, though, like a Michigan State. Michigan State's defense right now leaves a lot to be desired. I think they're able to keep up a little bit. I think USC wins the game by 14 points, but that's good enough for us to cover. Guys, final score prediction, 52-38. We're seeing a lot of points this weekend in this game. Late night in the Coliseum. Michigan State, though, will cover. They'll barely cover, but I'm going, 52-38 is my final score prediction for Jaden Maivia and the USC Trojans. To our final game of the week, my goodness, this is probably breaking the record again for longest video on my channel. Fresno State goes on the road to Hawaii to play the Rainbow Warriors. Going Fresno State here. It feels like, not a no-brainer, but it feels like a really good play. Fresno State's coming into their own right now. Got to give them credit. After their horrendous week 1 loss to Kansas, they've won 3 in a row. They dominate Georgia Southern. Unlike what I thought was going to happen, they go to Oregon State, beat Malik Murphy and the team without a long snapper in the Oregon State Beavers. And last week, they dominate the Southern Jaguars. That's the confidence booster that team needed. E.J. Warner finally throws a touchdown pass as a member of the Fresno State Bulldogs, and all of a sudden his line's looking like 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions after going into last week with 0 touchdowns and 5 picks. So shout out to E.J. Warner. He played a really good game. Donaldson and Gillum got going in the run game last week. Gillum got going a lot more than Rayshawn Luke did, but obviously Gillum's getting, third team reps. And now Fresno gets to go to Hawaii. A Hawaii team who only beat Portland State by 20 points. They beat Jaron Kiwe's brother and John Kiwe Sagapulete. I'm fairly certain that's his brother from Portland State. But Portland State's gotten manhandled all year long. They're an 0-4 team. They lose to Tarleton State 42-0, BYU 69-0, North Dakota 50-20, and then Hawaii only beats them by 20 points. I know Hawaii's on a backup quarterback now, right? Luke Weaver's their guy now. Luke Weaver, the junior out of Manteca, California, just like John DeJesus. All the talent's coming out of Manteca. He's starting football games now for them. He had to start last week. Luke Weaver goes 26-42 passing for 240 yards. This is obviously in response to the starting quarterback getting injured in Micah in the Arizona game. Micah's still out. Luke Weaver's their guy. Hawaii's not as good with Luke Weaver starting. It's that simple. There's not. Fresno State right now, they're running the ball well, and if you can get E.J. Warner some confidence, they're going to keep throwing the ball well too. The Southern game, I know it's an FCS game, that's a big momentum booster. Going and winning at Oregon State, yes, Oregon State tried to lose the game, and Fresno was trying to lose it too, but Fresno at the end of the game, going down the field in Corvallis, marching 70 yards, and E.J. Warner facilitating a field goal winning drive, got to give them a lot of credit, and that, I think, is all the momentum Fresno needs. You're a 3-1 football team now. All of a sudden, you looked like you were dead in the water. You were down at halftime against Georgia Southern. You ended up winning that game and scoring 29 consecutive points. You beat Oregon State in Corvallis. You beat Southern from the SWAC. You beat Hawaii. Now you're looking at 4-1. And then you beat Nevada next week, 2 weeks at home. You're looking at 5-1. They have a chance to win the Mountain West this season. They do. This is the roller coaster I'm going on with Fresno right now. Oh, horrible. Great, horrible. Mountain West Championship. Oh, they suck. I'm back on. We're climbing. We're climbing the roller coaster right now, right? We're getting ready for the drop again, but we're still climbing. I love what they do in the backfield. Bryson Donaldson looks like a premier back in the Mountain West right now. Elijah Gillum, obviously the offseason stuff didn't go well for him. You got Rayshawn Luke, and you do have Gillum as well. You have a great running attack. E.J. Warner can be good in the play action. He can be good, again, when he's just facilitating and when you're not asking him to take over a game. Because that's just not what E.J. Warner is. He's a guy that can help complement good running backs and good receivers. He's not going to be a guy that's going to completely do it all himself. And that's okay. It's okay. I don't know what Hawaii's going to be this week. No Micah still. Luke Weaver's a starter. Luke Weaver has not posted good numbers yet for Hawaii. And they don't run the ball either. That doesn't usually add up to a winning formula. All that being said, I'm taking the Fresno State Bulldogs to walk into Honolulu and win the football game against the Rainbow Warriors. Hawaii is yet to lose at home this season, beating Stanford, Sam Houston, and Portland State. Fresno will be the first team to do so. Late night, we're going to stay up for it, and we're taking Fresno State to cover the 3.5 points. Hopefully that line moves to 3, but that's fine. I'm taking Fresno State to go on the road and beat the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors with E.J. Warner and the run game. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Oh man, all of our college football week 4 predictions. If you got this far, I just want to express my gratitude for you guys watching this video all the way through. Truly means a lot. Listen to me talk about college football for over 3.5 hours. Again, I do believe this is going to be the longest video now on my channel for the 3rd consecutive week. So that's cool. I'm not trying to break the record every week. It's just there's more games as the season goes on as well because there's less FCS games going forward. So thank y'all for watching, folks. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more NFL predictions dropping tomorrow. College football best bets dropping on Friday. Thank y'all for watching. We'll be back for week number 5 next week. College football season keeps on going. We've got another 3 months of this at least. Yeah, 3 months of this at least. A little bit more. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba forever.